Looking over my screen in
Watch out.
the active window.
All right, we are live.
Hi.
What's up, everybody? Let's all take a
Mhm.
poll. Let's take a poll. Is Brian just a non-wrinkly person, or is he using a Zoom filter? He'll tell us the answer at the end of the show. But I'm curious. That face, that forehead, so smooth.
The forehead,
Look
especially.
at
Is your forehead less smooth
go
than
like
mine?
this. Go like this. I want to see if
Sorry.
anything.
Hang on. I've lost you in my window. Go like what?
This. Okay, I see it there. Okay, it's not a filter.
Do you
I think I
think
have
your
more of them.
forehead
Look
looks
how
old?
many of
Like,
them. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven.
okay, but do you think you got more as you got older? I don't think that's how it
I don't know.
works.
Now chins.
Chins.
How many? Dina could do it like so many, like kind of like my forehead. Dina could do that with her chins, like just like a bunch of different levels. It's a
It's
skill.
the beard disrupts things.
Yeah, you can't do it with the chins with the beard.
I
Anyway, hi
uh
everybody.
I had I had dinner at a friend's
Okay.
and I had an Aperol spritz.
Nice.
Easy, trendy drink. It's trendy right now,
Yeah, yeah.
right? That's all I
Great.
hear about is Aperol spritz. This
I
is
have
what
a
I had.
friend, yeah, Clara, who used to always get them every time.
Oh, she ahead of the curve?
It was like a couple years ago, I
Oh
think.
yeah, okay.
I don't know. Okay.
I mean, in Toronto, it was probably like it's probably come and gone already, but in Ottawa,
Right.
we're just getting it. And
Next, you're gonna get into a White Claw. It's coming soon.
I asked for it, like I was offered a second. I'm like, I kind of like I if I have a drink, I get sleepy.
hmm
And I said, like, did you like I want one, but I don't really want the alcoholic content. And he was like, okay, I'll just put like I'll do a little. He
hmm
didn't do a little. He did like a normal amount.
So we have to be worried that you're gonna fall asleep in the middle of the show.
Um,
Is this a warning for
yeah,
us
no,
all?
I think I'll be okay.
Are you telling
It's
me I need to
just
carry this one?
no, I think I'm pretty successful. Like I have done this show through all kinds of circumstances, and I think I'm
hmm
pretty good at turning it on when
All
it
right.
when it needs to be on.
But it's good. Now you have an excuse just in case you flub it this time.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
the YouTube people know. This isn't the
I
real
have a
Brian.
I have
Brian's
well,
impaired.
I'm not not impaired. I drove home. Okay.
Oh,
Not impaired. Norm is saying he doesn't know that he can answer about the looking old. What Norm, do I look older in person?
what was the question?
I think it was you wanted to take a poll about whether or not
Oh, it's
I
okay.
see the
We're
signs of
past
aging
that.
on my face in the mirror.
Hmm. I don't
Like I'm
notice it.
old, Like sometimes you're like, yeah, I guess I'm older. I don't know. Now I see little spots appearing where they weren't before, little rough patches.
Yeah. Well, theoretically, you could be in the NHL. Isn't Joe Pavelski older than you?
Yeah, he's your age. Isn't that like our benchmark, basically?
I think he's younger than me. I think he's like 39
Is
and
he
I'm
between
40.
us? Is he in 1986, baby?
All right, let's get into this. I guess this has been a good pre-show. This is what the
He's in
patrons
oh
get.
1984, baby. That is between us. Maybe I
hmm
am impaired. Man,
Chara's
Pavelski's with
gone.
the Sharks for a long time.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
All right. Ready?
Lewis says Lewis does have like
I could
OV
see.
like graying patterns.
hmm And
Okay,
Lewis keeps on bringing it
you want to
no
start.
matter. Yeah.
You want to start the show.
I mean, yeah, why not? That's what we're here for.
Is it?
So I prepped a whole little document. So might as well go through it.
Me too.
Then when it's over, we could continue this convo.
Yeah, well, no, we can't because
Well,
you
we'll
you
see.
you do your disappearing act.
Well, we'll see what time it is. It's
Okay,
past 10.
Brian, I've achieved the transactional nature of our friendship. See you later. See you next week.
We had a nice hang in Ottawa. We didn't even really talk about the podcast that much. We were just enjoying the log farm
Yeah,
and the bales of hay. It was great.
love the log farm and the photo shoots on the
I'm like a
bales of
totally
hay.
normal. I'm a normal person. I just hang out outdoors, appreciate
Actually, you
the
know what?
horses.
I loved hanging out with you. That's what a totally normal human would say. Is that I'm a totally normal human. I appreciate it. I don't know if I shared this with you, but like while we were hanging out and I just got to see, because I'm like sometimes I'm like, wow, like Elon is I think you are a little more attentive than I was when I had a child, when my child was your child's age. And I was like, I wonder how he does it. But I saw, like, I just like, I saw like anytime like Dina just stepped a little bit ahead of you, you'd like hang back and like check the scores.
Oh, oh,
Would pop
attentive about
on.
hockey. I thought you were gonna say an attentive father or
Oh
something like that.
no, no. How do you manage?
No,
No, it's the opposite.
I don't know. It's over.
How does he do it? How does he
I'm
share his
embarrassing
attention?
myself. No, I
Are
suck,
you?
Brian. I'm gonna go 0-3
Oh, at
after this
fantasy.
week. Yeah. No,
I
I'm okay. I
wonder
think I'm an okay dad.
I wonder
I'm
if
an,
your total fantasy points are high. I'm going to be 2-1.
what's
And my
your total points this week? Because I would beat a lot of teams this week,
I
and that's
have a
why.
241.
Okay, no, you'd beat me. I'm 220. I suck.
Okay. I had a good number this week, but yeah, I keep falling like right in. How many points do you have to date?
Um, the standings show me. Let me scroll down to 14. Here it is. 390 plus now this 220.
Okay.
I don't know.
So I'm about 30 points ahead of you.
Yeah,
That's
no, I did really badly. It's too bad. It's turned
it's
out
too bad.
I've already dropped like a few of my higher picks. Taylor Hall's gone. I can make excuses. Line A and Bennett both being gone for a while hasn't helped.
Yeah, I'm
Uh,
missing Liney too.
what are you gonna do? I suck. It's okay.
You
I'm
don't
still
suck.
I'm still good at making podcasts, I think. Oh, no one's told me to the contrary. But a
That's
lot
what's
of people didn't like
important.
my comments. Okay, look, on the Patreon cast, by the way, I just like to, I don't know, I like to be contrarian and kind of like have a good time. So I was being a little bit like glib about the whole climate thing. Like I do like,
No,
care.
no, no, no. So my favorite part of this is that um we had Jason drop like this full like thorough comment 10:12 p.m. on October 25th. Just want to say I appreciate it and like left a thoughtful comment like and he's like, I think a lot about this. I work in like I'm familiar with the field and it was interesting to hear your guys' thoughts. And then at 10:17 p.m., Elon writes, so while Hunter Shepard kind of sucked, I wasn't wrong in my prediction that he'd lead the Caps to their
I
first win,
didn't
eh?
see, sometimes I just post something without like reading up.
So whatever glibness you claim to have not had there,
Yeah.
it was beautiful. And
Uh,
then and then you responded, I guess 40 minutes later to the climate comment
because
when
I
you
had only read it
realized,
then.
yeah.
Look, sometimes
If
I
I were
can't
you, I
read
would, but you got
everything.
5 thumbs up. I think a lot of people were just like,
To Hunter Shepard or to
he's
the
to Hunter Shepard. I think a lot of people were just like, okay, he's tweeting through it. I'm just gonna nod my head and support the guy.
like obviously anyway, we gotta get
It
into
was
the show here.
perfect. I
Okay, I'm
wanted to
glad you're
screenshot it. Like I would frame that. I think
all
this
right.
this is I'm going to screenshot it now. This is Elon in a nutshell.
I guess so. I think I play a bit of a character. I don't know. I guess not.
I don't Do
Pete
you
is
think
here
this
to
was part of your character?
Pete is here to mock me right now in the chat. Pete's gonna beat me by I think enough. Yeah. Jeez.
Is it the
I'm losing
Varlamov
by
stream?
I'm losing by 15 right now. And Varlamov, I think,
Um,
got like
he got
16.
16 and a half or
Oh
yeah.
no. Oh, that was a
My
good move.
why
Jeez.
didn't you add Varlamov?
I was out of moves because I made a really dumb move adding Kaliev on Friday,
Oh, that
dropping
was
Cam Talbot, who wasn't
oh
supposed to play. And then I thought, okay. And then Talbot came in and got 6 points. Then the next day,
yeah.
the whole reason I dropped Talbot was because I thought the next day I was already gonna have Jari and Hart playing. So
Yeah.
what would be the need? But then the Flyers played Airson, who stunk, by the way. That was a dumb move. And also Jari got negative points and Cam Talbot got a win. So it's like I could have also probably, if I would have saved the move, kept Talbot, then streamed Varlamov, I'd be destroying Pete right now. But I'm
You
not good.
screwed up
Pete's
in a
better than
few
me.
ways.
I blew it. That's okay. I'm having fun.
Pete, I
Can't you
want to know how
tell?
you ended up with Varlamov.
He streamed him in today.
No, yesterday.
No, today. I think wasn't it today?
No.
Or was it yesterday? Okay, whatever. What do you mean? What is the question? We gotta start the show, Brian. We have a whole
I
long
was
show
curious
here.
how Pete ended up with Varlamov because I ended up with Varlamov because I was waiting to see. I was waiting. I was doing my thing where I wait until the last minute to pick my goalie streamer,
He
see
dropped
who else get.
Grubauer.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't even about dropping. It was just I wanted to know the full slate of who's available. And by the time
Mhm.
I decided, Varlamov was like the only one available. So I was happy about it. But
Great.
okay,
You're a winner.
we should start.
I would love to. Okay, let's do it. Ready to podcast. Yeah! Yes, 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 yes. Welcome everybody to another episode of the Keeping Karlsson Fantasy Hockey Podcast, the longest running fantasy hockey podcast in the world, hosted by two guys who, like Leo Carlson, don't perform more than like a couple times a week because we plan to be horses come the fantasy playoffs. I am your host, Elon Dubrovsky, and with me to break down all the injuries, outjuries, hot streaks, cold streaks, line combos, we're gonna have it all for you. It's the fantasy hockey robot, the IPP MVP, Brian Com. Nice to talk to you, Brian. How's it going?
Hey, I'm so good, Elon. Well, I was going to ask, how are you? But I'm not going to throw to you that quickly. I'm good. Do you know, I went to a Halloween party yesterday and I was the idiot who, like the idiot adult who forget it was with kids, but like every adult there was wearing a costume except me. I forgot. I felt really dumb. I wanted
I
to go
mean,
home.
that's okay. No one cares. I'm sure.
Well, like I was
Being,
afraid it was giving off like, oh, too cool to dress up kind of vibes. And like every adult had like a really committed costume. And like I straight up was so out of it. I took like I nap like twice a year. I napped yesterday for 3 hours. I don't know why. Well, I'm exhausted, but like I felt it was yeah. I felt like I was crushing the spirit of the party
well,
unintentionally. And I wanted a way to communicate that to people.
well, thanks for coming on here and unloading yourself. Now, hopefully, everyone who was at the party is listening and knows that it was a mistake and you didn't mean it. I actually went to a party myself on Saturday, like a kid's 1 year old birthday party. I guess this could be the show now. We can just kind of talk about our lives. And I was dressed in like a sweatshirt and pants. Then I was wearing like like a, what are those hats called? Oh, I'm an idiot. Okay, I'm gonna make an edit point. I was wearing a
Foam dome?
beanie. No, I was wearing like a beanie hat, just like a winter hat covering my ears. And then I left it on because I hadn't gelled my hair and I thought it was fine. Then Dina told me, like, you're too old to be dressing like a tech bro. That's what she told me. And so like
Oof.
so then I like took off the beanie and then there's like pictures of me and like whatever and the kids at the party and like I have stupid hair. So we both flubbed it on
But
Saturday.
this was not a Halloween party. You were not dressing up as a tech bro.
No, it was just a regular party because Halloween isn't for a few days still. But anyways, Brian, we got a lot to get to. So I think we got to get into it here. We're presented by Dabber Hockey. Super proud to say that. Frozen Tools is incredible. Best of luck to Dauber as he's going to be fighting leukemia again, unfortunately. You can read about it on dauberhockey.com. We're sending our best. But yeah, Brian, let's just get into the fantasy news here. And we got to start with injuries and outjuries, and specifically an outjury. Connor McDavid, Brian, he's back. He was out for a few games. The Oilers lost every single one of those games, of course. Now McDavid is back. It's 3-1 for Edmonton against Calgary at the end of the first period. Just a lone assist for Connor. So I guess he's easing his way back in. Just a single sad point. We'll see how he does by the end of the night here. But yeah, the Oilers now, we don't have to worry about randos getting into the top six. We can get back to seeing who's playing with who. And right now, the big winner is Warren Fogle, I guess, because the lines today have been McDavid, Draisaitl, and Warren Fogle, and then Hyman with RNH and Evander Kane. So, you can't get two better line mates than McDavid and Draisaitl. Warren Fogle, no points today, of course. In general, yeah, he hasn't been that great. Honestly, like I'm bringing it up because it's news, but also it's like for sure this is going to change and like no one should be rushing to grab Warren Fogle, I assume.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's it. I mean, like Fogel being up there, it's the same story as always with McDavid's line mate. We name the guy. It's not a guarantee he
It's
gets
our job. We
points.
just name it and then
And
we can move on.
that's it. Like we can move on because there's I think somebody else that you wanted to talk about on Edmonton specifically.
Yeah, well, I thought might as well mention Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, who going into today was on a bit of a cold streak. He had this crazy start to the year, 2 straight games with a goal and 2 assists. So he had 6 points through 3 games. Then he went totally quiet, no points in the next 4 games. He does have an assist today, Brian, so he's not going to be going 5 games pointless. Overall, like nothing looks too scary, 7 points in 8 games. I was going to say, I was kind of prepping this before we even knew if McDavid was going to be back or not. I was wondering if it's got to be just because McDavid's out, right? And that's just going to affect like people and like so anyways, I assume that RNH is fine. And now that McDavid is back, that power play is going to get kicking and like everything's going to be good. Or do you think now is a good time to try to unload him while his numbers are still good overall?
I think both of those are actually wrong. I don't think Nugent Hopkins is doing better because McDavid is back. I mean, maybe that's part of it. And I also don't think that you need to unload Nugent Hopkins because things are about to go bad. I think this is this could be a buy low moment for Ryan Nugent Hopkins. Of course, he did just get a point, which makes it maybe a little harder to get him off his manager. But you mentioned, Elon, that the Oilers were without McDavid and they lost every game. It was just 2 games that they were without Connor McDavid. They lost them both. They scored
They
4 goals.
they lost a few even before that too, just to prepare.
Yeah, yeah, they were getting ready. They lost. They scored 4 goals against Minnesota, lost. They scored no goals against the Rangers and lost. These are both without McDavid. They averaged 2 goals per game over those 2 games. And even with McDavid, Elon, they were averaging about two. They had 13 goals over 5 games. So like, well, that's better than 2 goals per game. That's a little more than 2.5, but still. But the point I'm trying to make here is that the Oilers are averaging in all these games less than 2.5 goals per game, 17 goals in 7 games going into tonight Sunday's contest. They were struggling to score even with McDavid in the lineup, but the Oilers are also second in the league in 5-on-5 expected goals for, and are actually clicking at a rate for expected goals as a team higher than last year when they ranked 6th in the league in goals for. This year they're doing even better, but the Oilers are ranked 24th in actual goals scored, and part of that is because they are ranked 27th in 5-on-5 shooting percentage. So the Oilers at 5-on-5 not getting all they deserve. Also, only 2 power play goals in the last 4 games going into tonight, and that's in 13 opportunities. Usually the Oilers would be able to get at least 3 in that span, if not 4 or 5. So all of this tells me that the Oilers are about to blow up, and that's why I think Ryan Nugent Hopkins is a buy low. He only had 2 shots over his last 2 games going into tonight, but I'm still going to stay bullish on him, assuming his deployment on the top power play stays the same, which so far it has. So yeah, if anyone is losing faith in Ryan Nugent Hopkins, now is a great time to grab him, because I don't see any reason to doubt that Nugent Hopkins can reach the heights of last year. Based on what we've seen so far, the Oilers are going to start scoring. He's going to start getting in on it. Everything's going to be okay.
Nice. Okay. And if you want to like, have a little pitch, you could say, oh, look, now that McDavid is back, it's McDavid's playing with Draisaitl, so RNH doesn't get to play with either of them. And we all know that's not going to last, right? Draisaitl's going to go center another line at some point. And so, yeah, you could maybe take advantage of that maybe. All right, Brian, let's do our next outjury over in Carolina. Andrei Svechnikov is back with the team. He's played 1 game so far. It was this game against the San Jose Sharks, where the Hurricanes obviously won. San Jose is really terrible. They did score a goal today. Speaking of the San Jose Sharks, their first goal in a few games. So congratulations to them.
Way to go.
You did it. Big success today. There's a guy named Ty Emberson, Brian, who got an assist, and I just added him to my dynasty team. So that check that off.
Glad you're on it. How many more points do you think he'll get on the Sharks this year?
Maybe like 5. I guess it depends how long. He did have 4 blocks today. I grabbed him mainly. He's minors eligible into categories league, and he ended up with 4 blocks. He played 21 minutes and 15 seconds. Ty Emberson claimed from the Rangers after he was waived after training camp this year. So there's your Ty Emberson content for the episode. The goal, by the way, was scored by Luke Kunin. So that's going to be a name, like the only Sharks goal scorer probably for the next couple of weeks. But anyways, back to the Carolina Hurricanes, who, yes, shut out San Jose in Evgeny Svechnikov's return. I mean, Andre, of course. Andrei Svechnikov did not get a point, though, out of those 3. He did take 4 shots, and he had 3 hits, 1 block. Something concerning is his line. He was playing on, I think, line 4, you would call it, with Nason and Jack Drury. Though I'm seeing on game day tweets that there were times throughout the game where he was getting multiple shifts with Aho and Jarvis on the top line. For most of the game, though, it was Aho and Jarvis playing with Teuvo Teravainen, who, by the way, is super red hot. We'll get to him in just a sec. But just sticking with Andrei Svechnikov here, I'm taking a look also at game day tweets for today's practice. And yes, still Svechnikov on line 4. But I think it's like very reasonable to say they're easing him in Like, don't even worry about that at all, right? Like, maybe he doesn't get on the top line, but if not, then he'll be on the second line. Though it's like they do have like a solid six in the top six, right? Teravainen, Aho, Jarvis, Bunting, Kakaniemi, and Natchez, who we'll talk about a couple of these guys in a bit. But like, normally or going into the season, it was Teravainen who was the one on line three, which made the room, for Svechnikov to be there. But with the way Teravainen and Aho have been clicking lately, someone's going to get bumped. And I guess it could be Svechnikov. I don't know. What's your read on how things are going to shake out once they're done easing Svechnikov in?
Yeah, well, you said like they have a solid six there in Carolina. It could literally be anyone. Well, not literally anyone. Sorry to overuse literally, which is a lot of people's pet peeves. But it could be Teravainen getting bumped. It could be Bunting. It could be Kotkaniemi. It could be Jarvis. Like I think there's a lot of positive. Well, it's probably not going to be Kotkaniemi because he's centering, but I see at least three wingers who have spent time in the Carolina bottom six who can be displaced by Andrei Svechnikov. So I'm not too worried about him not finding a spot in that top six. Last night, or it was Friday night, Svechnikov played just under 14 minutes, which is a far cry from his usual 17 or 18 minutes that he's been playing for the past several years now. So this is clearly an ease-in situation, and I think when he's ready for full go, 3 hits and 4 shots. I don't know what else the Canes need to see here to put Svechnikov in the top six, but it's really obviously just going to be a matter of time.
Right. Okay. And so we'll have to see what Svechnikov could do. We're still kind of waiting for like his big breakout, like I don't think he's hit the heights that we were expecting. Like he had like a 74-point pace in his sophomore season, and hasn't even beaten that since in the following 3 years. We'll see if this could be the year.
Yeah. I swear, I'm sure he's a guy, Elon, who in a lot of other situations would have broken out. He's still also like, this is age 23 season, so there's still the possibility he'll get better. But we've talked about Svechnikov a lot, and that it might just be there might be an artificial ceiling on him based on the way he's deployed in Carolina and how they roll their lines out, especially. I mean, you haven't gotten to it yet, but if I jump ahead, especially with the way they're sort of splitting their power play units lately.
Yeah. When teams do that, that's going to hurt a little bit in fantasy. Okay, Brian, I got to ask you about Teuvo Teravainen, who has had a really strange past couple of years, right? He was like great, like 2 seasons ago, 2021-22, he had 65 points in 77 games, was like a stud, like rostered in all leagues, 70-point pace. Then last year, I like believed for a really long time that it was like just a matter of time for him to bounce back. And you were like, well, maybe if he gets on the top power play. Eventually he did get on the top power play, and he still didn't. He ended the season terribly, right? He ended with less than a 50-point pace. Then this season, Teravainen starts super hot, had 4 goals to his first 3 games. Then out of nowhere, then went quiet for 4, just maybe in time for some people to start, giving up on him. And then, so of course, he got a hat trick in that game against San Jose. He scored all 3 of the goals and also took 5 shots. Where are we with Teuvo Teravainen, especially now with Svechnikov back? So, like you said, he is potentially Teravainen at risk of getting bumped to even like the third line. It could be if it's not Bunting or whoever, someone else. So, if you have is Teravainen someone that like is first of all like a must roster if he's a free agent right now? And then I guess the other question to go even farther is like, is he worth like holding, or do you try to like get some trade value back for him before Svechnikov gets and takes a spot?
I take issue with your characterization of Teravainen being super hot. He had a hat trick, right? 3 goals, 5 shots on Friday, and that was against San Jose.
I didn't say he was super hot.
I feel like feel like you might have. We'll have to check the tape.
I gave the whole rundown, Brian. You stick with me. I said he scored 4 goals to start the year. Then he went 4 games without a point, and then he just got a hat trick last game.
We'll have to check the tape later.
Okay. You want to start it over?
No, I'm gonna stick to my guns here. Maybe I'm wrong. But yeah, so 4-game pointless drought, then a hat trick for Teravainen. He's still on like what I'd call the 1B power play unit, and Teravainen has his points from 7 goals on 20 shots, which means he's shooting 35%. He has just 1 assist. Elon, you're asking if like he needs to be rostered? No, he doesn't need to be rostered. He played 12 minutes in the last game, which I wonder if that's an indication that his ice time is going to get eaten into, or he was benched or hurt or something. I actually am not sure exactly why, because every other game, Teravainen has been, between 14 and 19 minutes. He has a bit of a range here. So I am still not, like, my line on Teravainen, I'm sure everybody listening can say it with me. If he's not on power play 1, he doesn't matter. But now he's on, like, power play 1B. So I guess there's a slightly different situation here, and I haven't answered this particular question with this particular deployment about Teravainen, but I am still leaning no, no thanks. Unless
Wow.
he is on like the surefire top power play unit, like Elon, I will stream him. I'll try him out. But if he's on my roster and I'm trying to figure out who's at the bottom and I'm having a hard time, I would not feel too bad about parting ways with Tavo Teravainen.
All right. Well, let's get our Buds person. We have a new role in our, or Brian, you changed the name of it, right? On the Patreon cast, we came up with a new role for keeping track of any predictions we make so that we'll be able to be held accountable. And I guess we've made, you changed the channel name. I didn't even know you were doing it. It was called like the KK on Buds person or something, but then we changed it to the accountability with two Ks. Very clever because of KK for keeping Karlsson. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. Trev is the person keeping track of all of our takes. So I'd be curious for us to check back in a couple weeks and see if what you're saying about Teravainen not being worthwhile holding out, because he's on the top line with Aho and he has been on the power play with Aho. So you're saying as long as he stays on that power play, then maybe. But I don't know. I think that he used to be so good. He just had one bad year and he was getting bad deployment. I think if he's playing with Aho, I like him. But okay, it'll be fun to follow and see.
We've had this conversation, so many varieties of this conversation over the last couple of years.
Okay, well, maybe we have new listeners that need to hear it one more time. But okay,
no, sorry, I didn't. I did not mean to. Sorry, I take it back. I did not mean to put it at you that way.
Okay,
no. I just like it, even strength. I don't care where Teravainen's playing. He's never been a difference maker at even strength.
That's fair. Okay. Yeah. A couple other guys I wanted to bring up over on Carolina. First of all, Kotkaniemi has been like really good this year. I don't know if people are realizing. And also, he was a green boy last year. In the summer, when we did our show looking at people who had stronger second halves and first halves, like Kotkaniemi like started heating up at the end of last season. If you look at his splits from last year, he had like 18 points in his final 22 games, and he's kept it going now. 9 points in his first 9 games to start this season. A bunch of multi-point games in there, and in this last game against San Jose, 5 shots for Kotkaniemi, even though he didn't get a goal. Like you say, Brian, I think he's like pretty secure because he's a center to be centering that second line. Currently, it's been with Necas and Michael Bunting. We'll see again how things shake out when Svechnikov gets locked in. But like, yeah, is this finally he was the 3rd overall pick in 2018? Is he kind of like a Dylan Strome, like taking a bit of time to get going, but now he is maybe not worth 3rd overall, but like turning into like a fantasy stud that should be rostered pretty much all over? I guess easy question for you. You would take Kotkaniemi over Teravainen?
Yeah, I would, because Kotkaniemi is still on one of those split power play units, and he is doing well at even strength. One thing Kotkaniemi is doing well at even strength that he hasn't before, or at all strengths, is shooting the puck. Kotkaniemi has 24 shots through 9 games, including 5 in Friday's game against San Jose. That means he has essentially 20% of his total shot volume from last year already in just 10% of the games played. Kotkaniemi's shot rates and threat are also way up. His 5-on-5 on ice numbers look really great too. The line is shooting a little over their heads, but on the whole, that is a solid and productive line that seems to be clicking. Of course, with Svechnikov in the mix, things could get shaken up a bit, but as things look right now, Kotkaniemi seems like a guy to have. Yeah, the knock against him has been he may not shoot, but now with over 2.5 shots per game on average, that's gone for Kotkaniemi, and he is on Svechnikov's power play unit. So even if I say 1B, it's like still some substantial talent there, substantial chances of scoring a goal. So yes, Elon, I don't know if where are you at? I'm at Kotkaniemi better than better than Teravainen the rest of the way. Is that something you would quibble with?
Yeah, I think I'll so Trev can mark this down. I'd go Teravainen over Kotkaniemi for the rest of the way. So we'll see how that turns out. But it's super line dependent. Yeah, in a couple points. But it's like obviously, like I'll look bad really quickly if in the next couple of games Teravainen's on line 3 and power play 2 and Svechnikov has bumped him. So we'll have to wait and see.
Well, I did note that I think it would be strange for Kotkaniemi to get bumped from his spot on the second line because there's no one else. Well, I guess Necas could move to center, but that hasn't been the way things have been working.
Right, but Teravainen's been on the top power play lately. But yeah, speaking of that top power play, Tony DeAngelo has been there and Brent Burns hasn't been, but DeAngelo's not doing anything with it. But also Brent Burns isn't doing anything lately. So we were like kind of looking at this team, like saying that maybe D'Angelo's like a threat to Burns. Maybe they were just both threats to each other, and now we have to like. I guess my question to you is like, are either of these guys going to be like 50-point players this season? Do you think?
Yeah, like I think Burns can get there. I don't know that D'Angelo can with split power play time. I think there's no question D'Angelo could if he was on the no doubt top unit. And Elon, I hear I hear you leaning towards, hey, the unit with Aho is the top unit. That's what you're calling. And I agree. Like that seems like 1A. But Brent Burns and Svechnikov on the second unit kind of suggests to me that that unit is like I've been saying all along, like a split. It's power play 1B, and that's the way they've been sharing time. So I could see Brent Burns still getting enough ice time at 5-on-5, like in all situations. Plus, even with a split unit situation, if this holds, I think he'll still have like be fine getting to 50 points. Tony D'Angelo, I mean, he's playing closer to 20 minutes the last couple nights, thanks to some bigger power play time, but he's had some moments where he's been like around 10 minutes and like maybe those are short lived. Don't know. There's still like not enough of a trend for this year for Tony D'Angelo to see exactly. I think Carolina is still figuring out exactly what to do with him, but I am less concerned about Brent Burns losing ice time than Tony D'Angelo losing ice time. And Brent Burns, by the way, still shooting pretty well, almost 3 shots per game. That's good. That's a start. Like it's not like he should have scored more on the shots he's taken, but I think maybe he should have picked up another assist or two by now.
Okay, Brian. Let's go to some more outjuries here. We got a few of them. It's been a nice week, though. We do also have some injuries. Unfortunately, we'll have to get to. Over in Florida, Barkov missed a game, but then he came back, so that's good. Barkov makes me nervous. Like he misses a lot of time every season, so hopefully this is a one and done for a while now. Obviously, we'll have to wait and see. He went right back to his line centering Reinhardt and Rodriguez, leaving Kachuk with Lundell and Carter Verhaeghe. The news is that Sam Bennett could be back really soon. And I know, Brian, in our last show, you were talking about how like some of these guys on cold streaks, like Verhaeghe and Kachuk specifically, like maybe like Sam Bennett coming back can help. Since then, just to give a little quick check-in, I guess Matthew Kachuk hasn't needed too much help. He's got a goal and 2 assists in his last couple of games. Verhaeghe, on the other hand, well, actually, no, he also has a couple points in his last couple of games. So it's like they are already getting going, even without Sam Bennett. And so it'll be fun to see what happens when Bennett is back. I don't really have a question for you. Just wanted to give a quick update on everything going on in Florida, and probably we'll talk about them again next week and talk about Sam Bennett. And like, it just seems like this could be a really sweet spot for Sam Bennett, by the way. If he's still in, if you're in a league that like doesn't have IR spots or for whatever reason he's out there, like centering Matthew Kachuk is very good. And Verhaeghe's also a really good player. So yeah, I think that it's a good time to get excited about Sam Bennett right now.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, assuming we'll see how everything shakes out when he's in the lineup, which is what we said last week. But he does look like he's in good position. And honestly, I think you've got to look at Matthew Kachuk and Carter Verhaeghe is also in good position to take a step forward. In one of my shallower leagues, Verhaeghe was dropped. And I'm going to be all over that. Like Kachuk, by the way, finally scored his first of the year on Saturday against Seattle, but the volume and threat have been there for him. He scored just once on 32 shots, which means Kachuk is shooting 3%. He'd have at least a couple more if you regress his shooting percentage to normal. So this is a buy low window closing on Matthew Kachuk. This might be your last chance to do it. So see if you can. And Carter Verhaeghe, I'd still say this is a buy low window too. Low points participation at 5-on-5. Verhaeghe still looks pretty good in most ways. And if you can, I think you should. I know, Elon, the follow-up question is, well, who would you send for Verhaeghe? I mean, I would definitely send Teuvo Teravainen for Verhaeghe.
Yeah.
But good luck making that happen. I'm not sure. Maybe as we go through the show tonight, we'll try and figure out a couple names that you could swap. I don't know if anyone jumps to your mind.
No, not really. I'll just keep going here with Florida. There's another guy I wanted to check in on, Oliver Ekman-Larsson. You know, we were all excited about him to start the year because he was on the top power play. We're 7 games in, 3 points in 7 games for OEL. We've just gotten news that Montour and Ekblad have been skating, and I've seen like Thanksgiving being floated around as like a potential return date, which isn't too far off. So is it time that for people who have OEL to, I mean, you could keep holding all the way till the end, but I wonder if you see, like, Brian, we're going to be talking about some interesting defensemen on hot streaks later on. Is it a good time to start like considering life after OEL, or are you like still hold because he's on the top power play as long as he's there?
No, I think that is a good time to start. And by the way, I just checked Google US Thanksgiving for this was not sure when, late November. All right, November 23rd. OEL has been playing 22 minutes a night, which is definitely going to go down by that American Thanksgiving date. He is putting up 2.5 shots per game, which is great. And one thing that's not working for OEL is the Florida power play. They're just 4 for 25 this season. That's a 16% conversion rate versus their 23% conversion last year. Um, is that his fault? I'm not sure. Ekman Larson, like, at least has nice shot rates on the power play and a good threat level. Although HockeyViz is showing his isolated impact as being -6% expected goals on the power play, which is kind of the OEL we expected. So at least Ekman Larson kind of looks good to fantasy managers while not helping his power play. But I think all in all, it's not as strong a power play with Ekman Larson quarterbacking as it is with Montour or even Ekblad. So no, Ekman Larson to me, not a must hold with Montour and Ekblad scheduled to be back in a few weeks from now. Well, at least it looks like. Let's hope so.
Yeah. So let's say if you have like Montour in your IR and you have OEL right now, but you look at your schedule for the next couple of weeks and you could afford to like drop Ekman Larson for like a forward and you'll get a similar number of games. It might be the time where, yeah, play short at defenseman for a little while. You'll get Montour back soon enough and you're not going to hold OEL anyway. So yeah, I think we're on the same page there. Brian, still got some more outjuries to get to, then injuries. Yeah, then hot and cold streaks. We'll see how long this all goes, but it's going to be a lot of fun along the way. Let's take a quick break. We'll be back in just a sec. All right, pal, we are back. I want to go to Vancouver next. I think we mentioned that Ilya Mikheyev was going to come back on the last show, but now we've got a little bit of data. He's played 4 games now for the Canucks, all on the top line, and it's gone like pretty well. 2 goals and an assist in 4 games. Obviously, no points in the last game against the Rangers. I guess I shouldn't say. Okay, so it's gone pretty well. 2 goals and 1 assist in his first 3 games back. No points against the Rangers on Saturday. Ilya Mikheyev had been taking 6, 4, and 4 shots in those first 3 games, but he went total quiet. It was like a cardio session in that game versus the Rangers. But let's give him a break. He came back from injury. That was a back-to-back. I'm not going to worry too much about it as long as the lines stay the same. I think he's still available in a lot of leagues. I missed out on him in the Cupful. I'm wondering if there's people out there who have Mikheyev available. Are we at a point now where it's just like he's playing with Pettersson? It's enough. Like grab the guy because for the context, Elias Pettersson is like so hot. He has like already what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 multi-point games out of his 8 games this season. We're up to 13 points in 8 games for Pettersson. I think he's good enough that you want anyone on his line. Right now, it's Mikheyev. It looks like it's going to hold. So I think, yeah, for a guy that's available in a lot of leagues, he's very interesting to me.
Okay, so my answer here is 2 parts. Yes, you want Mikheyev exposed to Pettersson with 14 shots in 3 games going on to the 0 on Saturday against the Rangers. But again, playing with Pettersson, that's good enough to want Mikheyev or anyone as a stream. And I'm going to go like just a quick little sidebar. Another exposed Canuck. I don't know if that's a good term to start using, but someone who's got good exposure to other players is Phil DiGiuseppe. He's playing with JT Miller and Brock Besser. Had a 3-game point streak snapped against the Rangers on Saturday. Only 12 minutes for DiGiuseppe in each of his last 2 games, but playing Tuesday, Thursday, if he fits into your lineup in a deep enough league, not a bad look for a stream. I think I'd go Mikheyev first, but I'd still consider DiGiuseppe, assuming the lines stay the same. But the second part of my answer about Mikheyev saying like yes because he's exposed to Pettersson, this is going to be a bit of a hot take, Elon. I wasn't expecting to land here because I am a Pettersson booster. I have suggested that he is absolutely a first-round pick in the Cupful late, but legit. And I was doing that in my mocks coming into the season. But I have some concerns about Elias Pettersson. His 5-on-5 numbers, they look bad. Like they like I don't want to like raise any like I don't want to be alarmist here, but I like of course everything looks good on the surface as you mentioned. Pettersson's matching last year's 5-on-5 production. That helped him pace for 105 points, but somehow he's doing it while still looking bad underneath. Pettersson's shot rates are down. His expected goals rates are way down. He has an 18% on ice shooting percentage, which means he's getting like more goals are being scored on the ice than should be. His actual goals for are more than double his expected goals for. So there's more good variance here than bad for Pettersson. And that's the only way that he's been able to match his 5-on-5 production from last year. Also, another like flag for me is Pettersson's time on ice is way down. He's down 90 seconds a night. And I'm not sure if this is going to be a permanent thing or not. But it is something that caught my eye at 5-on-5. You wouldn't notice if you're just looking at all situations because Pettersson played 27 minutes on Saturday against the Rangers, but that's because he had almost 10 minutes of power play time and nearly 4 minutes of shorthanded time. So a lot of icky things happening for Pettersson at 5-on-5. And then on the power play, he's scored a goal on 5 shots and has 4 secondaries plus 1 primary assist, which gives him a 100% points participation rate, while the Canucks shoot 19% with him on the ice, both of which seem unsustainable. So, like, Elon, I don't know. I love Pettersson. Like I said, big booster, but I wonder if this might be, I mean, he's pacing for 133 points. I don't think anyone's for sure expecting him to stay there, but even if you regress him, like sometimes you say, okay, well, he's doing so well that if you regress him, he'll land where he was last year. But the underlying numbers are suggesting that something is a little off. Fewer shots, less ice time, a little luck going his way early on. So if you have Pettersson, I wonder, I mentioned Matthew Tkachuk's buy low window is closing. If you could do that deal, I would do that. I mean, I would have done it anyway, but I'd especially do it. Like, I wouldn't be so married to Pettersson thinking that he's about to shatter all previous career numbers, because the bubble's going to burst.
I mean, yeah, I get what you're saying. I definitely agree. I would take a Chuck over Pettersson if you could pull that off. I will say, like, I'm almost as confident that like the luck will run out as I am that he'll just start shooting more and like account for it. You know, I'm not saying again that he'll be a 133 point guy, but it's also a pretty small sample size. Like, I feel like he's clearly capable of shooting more, and I'm not going to like take this 8-game sample and be like, oh, Pettersson's not as good anymore or anything. So I feel like that's probably even the more likely scenario rather than him, you know, totally falling off once the percentages even out. But obviously we'll wait and see. The Canucks are doing really well, by the way, 5-2-1 through their 8 games. So I don't expect the time on ice to be dramatically changed, because whatever they're doing right now is working pretty well. But yeah, I guess it'll be something to watch. I just think he's like such a great player that, yeah, like everything you're saying, Brian, that looks bad under the hood, I'm more likely to just be like, is that crazy of me? Like, or not analytical enough? Like, I just feel like he's good enough that he'll turn it around.
It's a small enough sample. It's just a handful of games, and like, you know, there might be some extraneous factors going on that will settle themselves as we go. So yeah, I said I don't want to be alarmist, and then I think I ended up being alarmist. It's just something like, if after another 10 games we're in the same spot with Pettersson, then one, we won't be seeing as many points as he's scoring so far. And two, then it might be time to actually be concerned. But I agree with you, Elon. Small sample. We can give the guy the benefit of the doubt, because at worst, he probably still does perform like, you know, someone picked somewhere like in the 12 to 15 range of your pool.
Yeah, so still very good. Still like a 100-point player, probably. Let's go to St. Louis. Okay, another ouchery. So Pavel Buchnevich missed a couple games, came back super strong against the Jets, scoring a goal and an assist. Since then, 2 pointless games for Buchnevich. He also had 2 pointless games to start the year. So overall, we're looking at only 2 points in 5 games for Pavel Buchnevich after 2 straight over point per game seasons. So yeah, I guess the obvious question here is like, should Buchnevich managers be worried, or is it the opposite? And like, now's a great time to pounce if he's been dropped in your league or if someone's shopping him.
Sorry, I'm here. Yeah, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Like, St. Louis, like, before you even get to Buchnevich, well, it's all connected. The Blues well and truly suck. They're terrible. They have 13 goals in 7 games. They are dead last in 5-on-5 expected goals, with a dismal 2 expected goals per 60 minutes.
Wait, I got to interrupt.
What?
Dead last, meaning the Sharks are ahead of them?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, 32nd overall. They're shooting, and like, this is expected goals. Like, yes, the Blues are shooting less than 7%, but that also, like, their expected numbers are so poor that maybe they're shooting less than 7%, which is generally too low to be sustainable. But maybe they're doing it because they really suck and they don't deserve better. And not just are the Blues bad at 5-on-5, they're bad on the power play too. They rank 30th in the league in power play expected goals. Now, they're only shooting 4% on the power play, or not even. They are 1 for 21 converting on the power play in 7 games. So one lone single sad power play goal for the Blues. all of this to illustrate the scoring problems that this team is having, mostly deserved, some of it undeserved. Like they deserve a couple more goals than 13 in 7 games. But if you're asking if like Buchnevich sucks or it's time to give up on him, I mean, yeah, he kind of sucks in this context. Like I don't think Buchnevich personally sucks. I think he's really good, but this team in St. Louis so far looks like an offensive black hole. And I actually I doubled up on Buchnevich and Rob Thomas in one league. And like speaking of sucks, that sucks. Uh,
I didn't use the word sucks. I think this has all been you.
I'm saying it. I'm going hard with sucks on St. Louis. Yeah.
Well,
like
let me throw some more at you if you don't
Okay,
mind. Then,
yeah.
since you're already on this train,
Yeah.
Torrey Krug's been on the top power
Sucks.
play. Okay, no points. So is he like just a drop at this point? No points in 7 games, even though he's on the top power play?
For all these guys, it just sucks to be in St. Louis. It really does. Like you can name any guy, and I'll just say like this team is a mess. Maybe
Jordan Kyrou. I wasn't even planning on asking about him. Are you saying like you should drop Jordan Kyrou?
Oh, I don't know if I'm saying drop, but like I am concerned that the Blues might deserve a little better than they've gotten, but not a whole lot. And actually, one thing I'm trying to be like really conscious of in making fantasy decisions this year, like one thing I've sort of like elevated in the list of how I weigh different factors is this team going to score a lot of goals? And when I look at St. Louis, the answer is no. So, like, am I going to drop the star player on St. Louis or the star players? I'm going to leave Buchnevich or Kyrou or Rob Thomas by the wayside? No. Like, they're stars. They're going to be okay. They'll get theirs, even if it's not as high as it would be on, like, a healthy mid-pack team in the league. But everybody else, yeah, I'm not optimistic about. And like this for me is a fire the coach moment for sure. Like Berube has run his course. There's like some crazy loyalty to him because of the turnaround he pulled with the team and they won the cup. But like when Ryan O'Reilly was traded, to me that's the end of that cup loyalty. So I think St. Louis would be better off if Craig Berube was gone. So until he is, I'm not sure, or until there's like any real change. Like if Berube can stay behind the bench and affect positive offensive impact, great. Like I'm all for it. But in the meantime, no, I'm really like, I was feeling bad. Like I was aiming to get Krug, as I always do, late in several of my leagues this year. I didn't get him. Like people just beat me to him by that much. And I'm glad. Like I felt really bad about it on draft day. And I'm real happy about it. And I'm like, yeah, I knew I'd feel this way. That's why I didn't go get him.
Okay, so Justin Falk, he's also a drop, I assume, 1 point in 7 games. So Braden Shen, who had 65 points last year, get rid of him?
Gone.
All right. Well, you've heard it here. So basically, you've got the top line. It's not even the top line, right? Because Buchnevich has been on a different line. But you're saying basically Kyrou, Thomas, Buchnevich give a little bit of rope. Everyone else gone. The team's already said goodbye to Jakub Vrana. He was scratched in the last game. He's still on the team, but yeah, he's not even getting regular play. So obviously, scratch him. You know Jesse Severe, Brian, from the Fantasy Hockey Life podcast. He's been.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say. You almost tricked me into saying he sucks. He does
Jesse Severe sucks. Well, Severe, he's actually very smart because I joined this other dynasty league, not the one where people drink whenever I talk about it. This one where I'm co-managing with Victor, and Jesse's in that league, and he was shopping Vrana in the summer, and I think there were some bites, and I was like messaging Victor like, should we go for Vrana? Really glad we didn't, because yeah, he's nothing right now. So yeah, there's St. Louis for you, Brian. Let's go to the next team. Okay, we're done with outries. Let's get to some hurting. Okay, let's go to your Ottawa Senators. And unfortunately, we have to talk about Thomas Chabot out 4 to 6 weeks. So really bad luck for the Sens and really bad luck, of course, for Thomas Chabot. It's a fractured hand from blocking a shot. Don't forget that Zub has been out for a while. By the way, I've learned that a Zub in Russian means teeth. So Dina's always
he's got a great smile.
Well, I guess, and he's showing it off, not on the ice lately. Unfortunately, Brandstrom has also been injured, so Ottawa's really had to dive deep into their D depth. They still won their last game for what it's worth, but yeah. So with Chabot out, I guess it makes things a little bit simpler. Like already for a while, Jake Sanderson had been manning the top power play. He'd already stolen that job from Chabot, so obviously now Sanderson gets a longer leash. So yeah, I don't really know if there's anything that really changes fantasy wise. But it's news that I had to say. I guess the other big news out of Ottawa that I don't think changes much fantasy-wise, that obviously they talked about on Short Shifts this past week. 2 great episodes, by the way. Great job, Lewis, Shams, and Jeremy. But Shane Pinto is now we know why he's not signed. He's suspended for the first half of the season. I assume that means he'll get signed and come back for the second half of the season, but that's in forever from now. I don't know. I don't really have any fantasy implications though. I'll throw one name at you just for fun to give you something to sink your teeth into. Ridley Gregg seems really good. He has 7 points in 8 games. So Brian, why don't you give us a little sustainable or fleeting on what Ridley Gregg has been doing on the Sens this year?
Yeah, I'm gonna it'll be short because I spent a lot of time talking about St. Louis. Greg, it's fleeting. All right, Greg's been in the right place at the right time a whole bunch, which is great. While Ridley Gregg has been on the ice. By the way, if you're looking for him on Yahoo, it's Grieg. If you're trying to spell his name, 21% shooting for Greg and his teammates while he's on the ice at 5-on-5. And that's really, I think, the big driver here of all these points that Greg has managed to get, just one short of a point per game pace. But the nice thing is that Greg does notch 2 or 3 hits a game. So even if you just wanted to grab him and ride this hot streak while it plays out, while it peters out in all likelihood, he'll at least help you in leagues where hits are valuable. Right now, he's on the third line with Dominic Kubalik and Matthew Joseph, which is not like an awful third line, but I also don't expect a whole lot more. Like, I don't expect this production to continue. So yes, fleeting for Ridley Gregg.
Yeah, that's fair. Also, by the way, when I was sharing those St. Louis lines, not to go back to St. Louis Prime, where we already spent so much time apparently, but yeah, like I was sharing their last game lines. There have been practice lines that came out today. Thanks, Shams, in the chat here. So I'm looking over at game day tweets at the very latest on St. Louis, and yeah, they've swapped things around. Buchnevich, Thomas, and Kasperi Kapanen, and then Shen with Kyrou and Saad. But of course, they all suck apparently. Like, it doesn't matter. But like theoretically, if you think that like playing with Kyrou could help, then maybe Braden Shen can have an uptick. Or if you think that playing with Thomas and Buchnevich could be good, then maybe Kapanen could do something. But we're not going to bank on it. I won't even throw it to you, Brian, for that. Let's go to our next injury.
Well, hang on. I also just want to. I made a spelling mistake. Greig. Thanks to Norm in the chat for noticing that I flipped my I and E for Ridley Gregg.
Okay, so now everyone knows you can search for that player. Except Brian said not even to search for that player because he's not going to keep it up. So it doesn't even matter. All right, let's go to Montreal, Brian, for our next outjury here and to talk about Mike Matheson, who is hurt. Looks like he's only day-to-day. The latest from the Habs official Twitter account. Defenseman Mike Matheson has a lower body injury and is listed as day-to-day. He will travel with the team to Vegas tomorrow. So maybe not even anything to worry about. There is another defenseman, though, on the team who has recently returned, named Caden Gooley, who missed a lot of time. So if, like, Matheson is out, I think Gooley probably steps in and takes over on the top power play. Don't forget, Matheson missed a lot of time last season. So even though maybe this injury might not be serious, it is like a kind of like a Barkov situation for me where I'm like a little nervous. I hope that, everything will be fine. But I think Caden Gooley's worth looking at regardless. Like, he missed 4 games. He came back for the game against Winnipeg where Montreal won 4-3. 2 assists for Gooley along with 4 shots, 3 blocks, a hit. So like, yeah, contributing across the board, even +2 and 2 PIMs if your league counts those things. So yeah, just a really nice stat line for Caden Gooley. Do you think he's someone, like, even with Mike Matheson back and him being like only relegated to maybe power play 2 or maybe none at all? He didn't have any power play time last game. Maybe I was even dumb to assume that Gooley gets the next crack. Is he still someone that interests you? This is a 16th overall pick from the 2020 draft, who is in his second year now, only 18 points in 44 games last year.
Yeah, I like Gooley's peripheral floor here. Like, that's the nice thing. And that's what you might be looking for in like a 4th defenseman, is someone who's going to, even when he doesn't point, and going back to what I was saying about St. Louis, I don't know that I expect Montreal to score a whole lot of goals, and that's part of the calculus here. But Gooley, when he's not scoring points, he's at least going to do something for you on the score sheet, it looks like. So I'm happy to see that. Like Ridley Gregg, he has benefited from he and his teammates scoring on 21% of their shots while he's on the ice. So those points won't last, but I really do like, under the hood, Gooley's shot rates. If he can keep firing away, honestly, that's a start, even if it doesn't create chances that turn into goals. Again, this is a nice peripherals floor kind of guy that you've got in Caden Gooley. And hey, maybe if Montreal does score a few more goals than we all expect, then he'll turn out to be even more valuable. Gooley, by the way, you mentioned Elon, 16th overall, drafted in 2020, was a point per game player in his last couple of years in the WHL. So that's there were only like 40, 45 games as part of that, I think, because of injuries. But there's some offensive pedigree here if he does get a shot. But Mike Matheson seems to be holding it down, right? 2 goals and 2 assists, both on the power play. Or all 4 of those points coming on the power play in his last 2 games. I was actually wondering about Matheson because he had just 2 points in 5 games before that, and Matheson has yet to record a point at 5-on-5. He's shooting less than last year too. So I just have a little thing in the back of my head here about Michael Matheson, who I love. Saved my fantasy season last year in a couple leagues, but I'm not totally convinced that this is going to be the year where I think Trev, our accountability officer, has started had a preseason prediction saying that Matheson was going to be a top 10 fantasy defenseman. I'm not sure he's on track to do that. I'm open to being proven wrong. But so far, the returns for Matheson are a little lower. That doesn't mean he's not valuable, and I still really like him. He's on a great top power play unit in Montreal. I just wish he would shoot as often as he did last season.
Yeah. Again, I guess we'll have to wait and see. Still a small sample size, like with Pedersen. So it'll be interesting to check back in a couple of weeks and see if like those underlyings are still
Why don't
concerning.
we just cancel the podcast for until we have a bigger sample size?
I mean, yeah, I guess we could do that, but then I don't know what can we talk about. I guess we can talk about these parties we go to and like talk about kind of the other more universal all-time things.
That's the patron cast. If you want to find out, by the way, we recorded one this past week. If you want to find out what happened when Elon tried to trust the public on Halloween, you can you can subscribe. It's available in our archives anytime.
I think I had a weird night that night for that patron cast. I think I was like shooting off the hip a little bit too much. There was a lot of comments in the Discord. It's funny whenever we post a show, a patron cast or an episode, it's always like the discussion isn't about any of like our hockey takes or like it's always about like other random stuff we talked about, which I don't know if that means it was a good show or a bad show, but let's just keep rolling here, Brian. Actually, we have still a couple more injuries to get to. So let's take a break and then we'll get to those. That'll finish off part 1. So we'll be back in a sec. All right, we are back, Brian. I want to go to New Jersey now, where we've got Nico Hischier still day-to-day at the moment. That's the latest tweet, according to Lindy Ruff. So who knows, like how long he'll be out. In the meantime, like on paper, it looks like it's not good news for Jesper Bratt, because in this game against Minnesota today, Bratt had to be playing on a line with Michael McLeod and Andre Palat, while Meyer, Hughes, and Toffoli got to kick it on the first line. But Jesper Bratt doesn't need good line mates, it seems. He'll just produce no matter what. 2 goals and an assist today for Brad. I guess it helps that he's on that top power play, but hey, one of those goals did come at even strength to open the game. And then, there was also a power play goal and a power play assist. Speaking of that power play, with Nico Hischier out, and this is going to be our typical every week talking about the Devils, talking about Timo Meier, but Meier on the top power play, I assume in the spot that Hischier would normally be. And all of a sudden, Timo Meier, since last week where we were having some concerns, he's all of a sudden rolling a 5-game point streak, most of them assists. He did get a goal against Washington to finally get his first goal of the year in this game today. It's like only 1 shot, but also an assist and a power play assist. So he keeps the streak going. He's looking good. The big question now, and this was actually a question we got from a Mops on our Discord, is now like a perfect sell high time, since we were nervous about Meier before, and I would assume he loses top power play again when Hischier comes back. So it's now like he's got 7 points in his last 5 games. Maybe now is where you can get a return for him that's like, the draft pick right before, right after him. You basically get the commensurate value from drafting. Or maybe is this just a sign that he's great? He's been playing at even strength with Jack Hughes. Jack Hughes is incredible, like insane, like a top tier, maybe top 2 or 3 player in the league at this point to play with.
It's a given now. Like we don't, like when we talk about McDavid or Matthews or Pasternak, like we don't remind. Like
Hughes is there.
I don't think we need to remind people anymore.
Okay,
like it's automatic now.
But of course, when we're talking about Timo Meier, we're talking about a guy you took in like the 2nd round. So even playing with a player of that level might not be enough if they're not like shooting or not on the top power play. So where are you currently at with Timo Meier? Maybe after this, we'll take a break for a couple of weeks. But I think with this amazing hot streak, it could be an opportunity for people to get out from under him. Or you just hold on and enjoy it for the rest of the year.
Yeah, hopefully. I think I'm with you, Elon. I think I'd rather mitigate the risk here with Timo Meier and say, if you can trade him, if you can do what appears to be a lateral move, like trade him for someone who was drafted a couple picks later, I think that's okay. Like I think you could, and I think you should. Just like so, honestly, so you don't have to sweat it the rest of the season. I think you could save yourself some stress. The ceiling on Meyer seems lower in New Jersey than it was in San Jose. So we already knew that, but the fact that he's having a hard time playing up to expectations, really for any of his time is definitely, even if the underlyings looked good last year and they didn't so far this year. Just 9 shots for Meyer in his first 6 games. Then he put up 5 on Friday against Buffalo. So it was nice to see the old Timo return. I'd like him to stay a while, but I just like I don't know. Like, and it's possible he will, but I don't know for sure. So Elon, I like your suggestion here, which is to just see if you can trade him at a draw or even a small loss, just so you don't have to worry about it. It's sad. Like it makes me sad to say I love Timo Meyer, but it's
I mean,
not
he's still good. We're talking about like
yeah.
trading him for like a Tage Thompson or something if you can.
Yeah, exactly.
By the way, on New Jersey, and I should say this was Mops who asked the question, so it's more like her idea than mine. I should say, though, I would have had the same idea, of course, since you like it. It seems pretty clear, by the way. Luke Hughes is holding this top power play. 2 power play assists today. He's great. He's going to have an incredible rookie season. You know, Bedard's kind of slowed down. I wonder if Luke Hughes has a shot at that Calder. If he keeps this up, if he stays on the top power play and gets like 60, 65 points as a defenseman, as a rookie, I think it's possible. But anyway, all that to say, Dougie Hamilton, no points today, 2 power plays for Luke Hughes. So, but still 4 shots for Dougie. Again, I think we already talked about this last week, and I haven't really changed my opinion. I think Dougie should still have a decent year, but obviously that ceiling is super capped, and Luke Hughes just like to the moon at this point, because I don't think this is like this seems like it'll hold. And even just the fact that his brother is on the power play with him, I feel like it's just more of a reason why it'll stick. Like they clearly, like they must have chemistry. They've probably played together their whole life. I don't know. I think this is holding. That's how I see it.
You love that brotherly chemistry. Yeah.
Makes
So
sense.
I think this is it, Elon. I think the same way Jack Hughes is like, we don't need to laud him anymore. We just like know what it means when you say Jack Hughes. I think like let's just leave it at this. Luke Hughes, top power play quarterback until we see something change, which of course is bad news for Dougie Hamilton. Yeah. It's really like this guy, his whole life, he's been a power play 1 quarterback, and he's actually only ever done it for like what, 2 full seasons, if that. It's strange. He's always been good at the role.
There's always someone better. There was Justin Falk over in Carolina. Who was it in Calgary? Oh, it was that guy that you hated so much that he was there? Brody
TJ
was taking
Brody
top power play
and
over.
Damon
Yeah.
Severson. Like these aren't
But Jack
guys.
is, or yeah, Luke
Like
Hughes
these
is
are
different.
though all those other guys have not been power play 1 quarterbacks anywhere else. It's bizarre. It's very strange. It's a strange career trajectory.
Yeah. I think 15 years from now, it'll be a fun trivia question to be like, Luke Hughes has been on the top power play for New Jersey for the past 15 years. In his rookie year, there was a guy who was there for like the first week before he took the job. Who was the person? And then the trivia question answer will be Dougie Hamilton.
The first week in the entire season before that.
No, I mean like instead of Luke Hughes.
That. Yeah.
I'm saying like the one person who bumped Luke Hughes from the top power play in his whole career was Dougie Hamilton for a week.
I see. Okay. Got it.
All right, let's go to Buffalo. Some concerns in net right now because Eric Comrie is hurt. Devin Levi was already hurt. So this team that had a 3-headed monster, I guess they were smart to hold all 3 goalies because they had to rely on Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen today. And it went pretty well because he shut out the Colorado Avalanche. This is after, by the way, Tristan Jarry shut out the Colorado Avalanche. So I guess a whole side question is what's going on with the Colorado Avalanche. But first, let's stick on Buffalo. I don't know exactly how. Well, we know that Comrie's going to be out a while. I think Levi, they're definitely going to let him heal fully. He's been day to day for a while. There's a guy named Cooley that's now the backup on Buffalo, but I'd imagine that Luukkonen's just going to get the large majority of the starts moving forward. So is this like in the short term, for as long as he's there, rush to grab Luukkonen after this amazing start? Or would you have concerns that he'll be shaky like he has been throughout his short career so far?
Yeah, it's more the latter. Like Luukkonen has never been very good for very long. So you can try him out and see how well he does. And Buffalo has like a pretty good team this year. So there's a decent chance at picking up a win, but there's also a decent chance at having your spot completely blown up by Luukkonen. So just keep that in mind. He's an okay chance to take, but he's a risky start. The same way, like I'm trying to think of like a comp, which like maybe Eunice Corpusalo or Ville Husso. And I don't think
Honestly,
Luukkonen is
yeah,
as good as those guys. Like I think he's like a step below. So yeah, just what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say maybe even like a Tristan Jarry, his fellow Colorado Avalanche shutter outer, because he like went from shutting out the Avalanche to getting pulled the very next game. Like highs and lows, like Norm is saying in the chat here. Also, like yeah, goalies are very tricky. So there's not too many of them that you can really set your watch to, and like it's pretty wild that you can shut out the Avalanche and they get pulled the next game. But that's the NHL, I guess. We'll see if UPL gets pulled the next game when we see this. What was it? Something Cooley. I didn't even look it up. I didn't write it down here. Daniel.
Devin.
Hey, Devin.
Devin Cooley from Los Gatos, California, 26 years old. He's been in the AHL for the last several years and not as a starter.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
so I guess Buffalo thought 3 goalies was enough, and now we'll see how that
Wrong.
goes. In this game, by the way, some interesting line combos for the Sabres. So Tage Thompson, we mentioned last week, was split up from Skinner and Tuck, and Thompson had been playing with Cousins and Greenway. So now Cousins is gone. So now it's Tom. This is a real top 9. They're really spreading out. That like Skinner, Thompson, and Tuck are now all split up on separate lines at this point. So Thompson was playing with Greenway and Zach Benson. Remember when everyone was like losing it over Zach Benson? It's been a while since he's done
I
anything.
remember
So
that.
that was fun. Skinner is playing with Middlestat and Paterka, and then Alex Tuck has been playing with Tyson Jost and Dylan Cousins. I don't even know what you'd call like the top line here, especially with like Dylan Cousins has been like having such an incredible season. By the way, he's up to 7 points in his last 7 games. No points today, though, for what it's worth. I guess if we want to look at who did stuff today, Middlestat scored on his line with Skinner. Skinner had a couple assists. Skinner's also red hot right now. Like on paper, you would think like this is kind of bad for all 3 of like Thompson, or all 4 even of Thompson, Tuck, Skinner, and Cousins like being spread out like that. But yeah, it hasn't seemed to bother Jeff Skinner. I don't know. It's hard to come up with the fantasy analysis here. Casey Middlestat, I think, playing with Skinner. It's pretty good for him. He's got points in a lot of his recent games.
Yeah, Middlestat's on a nice little run this week. So you've got that. And actually I think I'm glad you brought Middlestat up, Elon, because I think I think I don't know if you remember it, but I earlier this season I talked about like sitting down for a fantasy draft with like in my friends league, my casuals, and everyone's like at the table at the bar with their laptops open, like, and they just Google like fantasy hockey sleepers 2023, and like Casey Middlestat was on all those lists. He's gonna turn 25 next month. Had a 60-point pace last season. Not shooting a lot to on his way to that 60-point pace, just a shot and a half per game, which made him like a tough roster because he wasn't doing much else. Even if he did get you an assist, he had 44 of those and just 15 goals last season. It's like, is that really worth it? But this year, Middlestat's doing well. He's up to a 64-point base already with 7 points in 9 games. He's still barely shooting and he's still assist heavy. He's like the defenseman of forwards, basically. So you got to be ready. But if you're in like a straight points league and you're not looking for peripherals, and if assists are weighted the same as goals, then yeah, there might be some additional value there, especially with the lines spread out in Buffalo the way they are. Jeff Skinner, by the way, Elon, are there any Jeff Skinner non-believers still out there? His shot rates have gone up 33% at 5-on-5. His expected goals rates are elite. Like Jeff Skinner is really good. This is the Jeff Skinner we thought we were getting in those early years in Carolina. And by the way, Buffalo, their power play has been terrible. 3 for 25 conversion rate. They can do better. Dylan Cousins somehow has 2 power play points on the 3 power play goals Buffalo has scored all season. So he's on a 60-point pace. Dylan Cousins so far, he could probably be a little higher with some power play regression, like good kind of regression. And Jeff Skinner the same, just 1 power play point so far and still a point per game player. Skinner's probably shooting a little high, and he's participated on 100% of the goals scored while he's on the ice, but trade that off with missing power play points. I think Jeff Skinner is still really freaking good.
Yeah, I agree with you. I wish I took him in a league. I have Tage Thompson right now, and like he's been okay since that slow start, but it's like I could have gotten Cousins or Skinner like so much later and get same production. So it's a little
I
frustrating.
think you'll still
But
like Thompson more by the end of the
we'll see.
season.
I mean, I'm 0-3 to start my couple season. So hopefully I'll like him enough to if he gives me a win one week, that'll be nice. I guess it's not only up to him. Brian, let's do one more injury. Then we'll finish part 1, and then we'll have a whole slew of hot streaks and cold streaks for part 2. I still think, by the way, side note, I think we should name the episodes like injuries and outjuries for part 1 and like hot and cold for part 2. I know you're like really against it, but just throwing it out there right now.
Every
Everyone
single
here.
week, just the same show title.
No,
Sounds
like I
cool.
mean, maybe a comma or a colon. I just think
Oh
let
yeah,
people
reverse the
know.
outjuries and injuries maybe one week and injuries and outjuries the other
No,
week.
I don't know, just whatever. So people know. Maybe they want to listen to hot and cold first. Anyways,
Juries of in and out the next
you'll
week.
come up with something. You're creative.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but I want to go to Pittsburgh for the last injury. So Alex Nedeljkovic is hurt. He was the backup on Pittsburgh. You wouldn't think there'd be huge fantasy like interest here since Jari should play a lot. Jari got like I said, he shut out Colorado, and then yesterday he let in 3 goals on 9 shots versus the Sens and got pulled after like a period and a bit. And so that stunk. The new backup on Pittsburgh is my guy, Magnus Hellberg, who came in, didn't do too much better. Unfortunately, 2 goals against on 17 shots. He was able to make it through the rest of the game. Anyways, Pittsburgh got destroyed by the Senators, sending the Penguins now to a 3-5 record on the year. Things aren't going well for them. Things are also not going well for our guy, Erik Karlsson, our podcast namesake, who had another pointless game, his 4th in a row. We're now at 4 points in 8 games for Erik Karlsson. And I'm not like I'm asking you, Brian, for a reason to believe, because I'm seeing low shots, not more than 2 shots in any of these last games. He's already like never been great for other peripherals, except for that random year where he almost led the league in blocks, which I still don't understand how that happened. Is there like what anything? Can you just give me something to feel okay about Erik Karlsson?
You can feel okay about Erik Karlsson. Like, yes, he's pointless in 4 games. But you know what? Double-edged sword here is that like the bad news and the good news is that Erik Karlsson has yet to record a power play point. Pittsburgh is just 2 for 20 on the power play this year through 8 games, which means, by the way, they're only getting 2.5 power play opportunities per game, which is low. I'd expect Pittsburgh to be on the power play more often. And they're not even doing well with the few power play opportunities that the Penguins are getting. And that on the power play, Karlsson is still very involved, good shot rates. His expected goals show that he's been a legit weapon out there. Like it's amounted to just 4 power play shots over 8 games, but they've been high quality shots. And per 60, it's still, I know, I'm doing my best here. But you know what? Pittsburgh is also just scoring on 6.5% of their power play shots. So the Penguins deserve better on the power play, and Karlsson will be in when the Penguins get what they deserve. So I guess, Elon, my question for you was like, and maybe I should have a list ready, but it sounds like you want to sell Karlsson, right?
I mean, obviously depends what I can get.
Okay.
But,
Can I throw a couple names
listening.
at you?
All right, let's do it.
What about Timo Meier?
Oh yeah, definitely.
You would take, okay. What about Miro Heiskanen?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll take it.
You wouldn't take Dougie Hamilton, I'm assuming.
Maybe I would. Okay. I'm pretty nervous, Brian. It's not going well for
injured Brandon Montour.
Also, Brian, you talk about how I would take Montour, I think, at this point. But yeah,
okay, Noah Dobson, last one.
I think so. I'm nervous.
All right.
I mean, we'll see. I mean, obviously, I would like look into it a bit more. No, not Burns. Okay. But I will say that you're talking about how like the power play hasn't been good. So like once they get going, then the Penguins, like Karlsson, will probably heat up because he's like a key part of that power play. Like it does also make me a little nervous that the Penguins do have another very good power play quarterback on the team, that if at some point they're like, this power play is not working, what should we change? Oh, why don't we go to the guy who's been running this power play for the past 20 years? So that makes me nervous as well.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like there's like some agreement in place that they're not going to do that.
Well,
that he's not. But,
I mean,
but you're right.
What if they like go for the next 50?
They could. And I will like, just to make one contrast here, like Oliver Ekman-Larsson, I said his shot rates were good on the power play, but he's a drag on the unit, or at least according to HockeyViz, his isolated impact. Karlsson is still a net gain, like a nice gain, like a very good gain. Approaching elite gain for the Pittsburgh power play with what he contributes there so far. So, yeah.
Right, come on, EK65, you got this.
If you have Noah Dobson and you want Erik Karlsson and you're in Elon's league, you could try that.
Yeah, I mean, I might think about it first. Like, it's not. I'm not saying I've accepted already, but I'll take a look. But we'll talk about Dobson later in the show.
Norm also added in the chat, the Penguins are bad, but luckily they're an older team, so they're only going to get slower as the season goes on, which doesn't bode well. Tristan Jarry hasn't been great either. right?
Nope. No, he hasn't.
Do you know, Elon, that out of 34 goalies who faced at least 125 unblocked shot attempts, Tristan Jarry ranks 32nd out of those 34 goalies by alphabetical first name?
So that's wait, what? What was that last part?
Jarry ranks 32nd out of 34 goalies who've played a bunch of games so far this season, ranked by alphabetical first name.
What are we ranking then? Just their names?
Yeah. Can you name the 33rd and 34th?
I thought you were telling me a stat that he's like doing badly. Is
That
this a
was
joke?
That was the joke.
Oh, but how's he actually doing when you
Badly.
compare? Yeah, okay.
25th in Delta Fenwick save percentage, 29th. This is out of 34.
I wasn't
29th
ready
in
for that.
5-on-5 save percentage.
It's like,
20th.
what?
And Jarry's protection has been like, like it's been like mid pack or just less than mid pack. But like, yeah, this is Tristan Jarry. A 50% quality start is like worse than we'd expect from Jarry, which is what he's done so far. So he's hurting you even a little more in being his like mediocre kind of self. Hopefully he'll pick it up. Elon, can you name the goalies who have played a bunch of games whose first names start with a letter after T in the alphabet?
I got one for you. Vitek Vanacek.
Yeah.
That's an easy one. I mean, I don't know if this will be good content. How about like, so after T, just give me some time and I'll think about it next time you're talking. Okay. And I just won't listen to your answer when I ask you now about Ricard Raquel, the other Penguin I was going to throw at you. He's already been bumped from the top power play, which hasn't helped apparently, but still, I don't know if he's getting back soon. Raquel's been a total bust this year. 1 assist so far in 8 games compared to a 60-point season last year. So tell the listeners if they can drop Ricard Raquel, while I try to think through goalies whose first names start after T.
I think you. Oh. Sorry. Yeah, I was. Sorry. Okay. Yeah, I think you can drop Ricard Raquel until he's back on the top power play unit. I mean, Elon, you said you were worried about Erik Karlsson being cycled off the top unit because, like, oh, it's his fault that the power play isn't clicking. Ricard Raquel already served the purpose of scapegoat there. And Raquel at 5-on-5, by the way, healthy underlying numbers, but awful variance for Raquel. He's participated in just 16% of the goals scored while he's on the ice. Raquel has scored no goals himself on 16 shots at 5-on-5. Usually he's like a 10% shooter. So I think actually Raquel is okay, but it's the top power play that he's really missing. And so long as he's off of it, yeah, I'm not, I'd be okay to let him sit and consider him like a nice stream or like somebody that I could take a speculative add on, assuming that he might get back up there, or he'll be able to produce at 5-on-5 because his numbers there are still good. And watching your face, Elon, I think you have found the answer to our other goalie. His first name starts at past T
after
with a
T.
letter
Yeah,
past T.
Ville Husso.
You did it. Good job. This guy knows his alphabet.
Yeah, well, luckily it was from a team that starts early in the alphabet with the Detroit, or it would have taken me a lot longer because I was just kind of going through.
Classic, using one alphabetical riddle to solve another.
It's a little bit trickier, by the way, thinking of first names. Like my brain goes right to like, Dallas, Ettinger. Like, like then it's like, wait, no, what's his name? Jake. Okay, like, it was an extra thing that made it take longer. Okay. Brian, that's it for part 1. We're done with injuries and outjuries. I got a lot of fun hot and cold streaks and even some line combos to throw at you. So we'll get to them very soon. But thanks everyone for listening to part 1. Hope you liked it. If you want to listen to part 2, you should already have it downloaded in your podcast app. Unless you're not subscribed, in which case, I mean, we'd appreciate if you would subscribe because it actually helps the show quite a bit. So wherever you get your podcast, just make your thing automatically download each episode. And then, yeah, we'll catch you in part 2. It's going to be a blast. We're going to start with Mitch Marner. And we'll go all the way up until Luke Evangelista. That's the plan. Some guys in between. See you soon. Okay. It is 9/22, Sunday, October 29th. The fantasy week has started to come to an end as there's only one remaining game on the docket. The Oilers are defeating the Calgary Flames 3-2 after 2 periods. Still a sole point for Connor McDavid. But Brian and I are going to talk about a lot of players on hot streaks, on cold streaks. It's going to be a really fun part 2, Brian, as per usual. So stoked to have you with me. We're done with all the we're done with all the injuries and outjuries. Here now to just get the classic keeping Karlsson sustainable or fleeting. Is this guy going to get better or is this guy about to get worse? How you doing, Brian? Are you ready to dive into this big list of players I've accumulated?
I'm about to get better. Are you about to get better?
I mean, I hope so. I mean, it is getting later and we are both old. So like
Right.
the Pittsburgh Penguins and what Norm said, it sounds like we should only be getting worse.
Mind
But
over matter.
let's start in Toronto, okay? Because Andrea wanted us to talk about Mitch Marner, who isn't like, Ricard Raquel, like he's not pointless, but Marner is someone who is obviously being drafted right at the end of the first round, early second round in most fantasy leagues, and he has 7 points in 8 games. Like he has 3 points in his last 3 games. It kind of reminds me of last year when we talked about Marner being kind of cold in terms of fantasy points, even though he was riding like a Leafs record point streak. But I guess, when you drafted this guy, you expected a 100-point guy. Like, so I don't know. You might just say small sample size and be done with it. We're at 7 points in 8 games when, yeah, people were expecting more like an 100-point pace. Also, only a one shot per game in Marner's last 3 games. Like I said, he has 3 points in those games, even one of them a goal, but obviously that means a goal on 3 shots. Are we nervous, Brian? Tyler Bertuzzi also not doing as well as we hoped, like playing with Marner. I don't know if that plays a part. Like, do you think that Marner is still a 100-point guy, or do you think there's a chance that this is going to be a down year for him?
Yeah, no, I think this is a nice buy low window on Mitch Marner. And to be honest, we were talking about Pedersen, and I know Marner was usually drafted after Pedersen in most leagues, but also plays on the right wing, which is a desirable position this year. I would see if I was a Pedersen manager, if I could make that deal to trade down for Marner, and I'd be really happy with the outcome of that because I think Marner's going to be okay. 7% shooting so far this year for Marner. Usually he doubles that. This is at 5-on-5. And also, he and his teammates all struggling. 6.3% on ice shooting. That's very low. I guess the one flag here for Marner is that his on ice expected goals numbers are lower than usual. So his line is not performing up to the caliber that they usually do. But I feel like this is growing pains as Marner, as like that third piece on Marner's line keeps getting like has been changed a couple times between Tyler Bertuzzi and Calle Yarncroke. It's a good thing for Marner that the power play points are still there because that's sort of keeping him afloat at that 72-point pace that he's managing right now. But I don't see any other underlying reason why Marner wouldn't get back up to the 100-point pace he's had the last 3 seasons. I think even if that third piece and Bertuzzi slash Yarncroke doesn't fit as well as it has in the past, to me, that seems like something Marner and Co. can overcome.
All right. So there you go. Buy low on Mitch Marner if you can right now. Let's go to Philly. They're the team that has the best schedule for this week. If you listen to the matchup maximizer that I dropped yesterday, they go Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. Monday isn't the typical light day Monday, but you'll have to check and see. But assuming you can fit in a Philly player on Monday, that means you're getting 3 games before the crazy busy Saturday. And I mean, there's the obvious player that you can't add, Travis Konechny, that I'll just shout out. 5 goals in his last 6 games. This guy is having such an incredible start to the year. You can't get him. You can get maybe someone who has been on the top power play with Konechny recently. His name is Bobby Brink. Really fun name to say with the alliteration. He's 22 years old. He was a second round pick in 2019, and Brink is getting his first, we'll see, but looking like sustained streak of NHL action. And he's been doing really well lately. 2 straight multi-point games. He had 2 goals against Minnesota, 2 assists against Anaheim. Good schedule coming up next week. I love, Brian, when I could stream someone in. Of course, I'm blowing myself up. He's like hasn't been taken yet in my division, and I might take a shot on him tomorrow if I can. So be fine to like tell me why he sucks tomorrow, but then afterwards, like whisper to me that actually he's okay. But yeah, like what I was gonna say is I'd be fine. Like if I could stream someone in who has a good schedule and potentially could be a hold because he's on the top power play in Philly, like that's the kind of stream I like. Because if 1 out of 4 times it turns into a hold by halfway through the season, you've got a bunch of new exciting players. So Brian, give us your scouting report here on Bobby Brink. If you think he holds the spot on the top power play, and if you think he could keep up this production. We're at 6 points in 7 games now for Brink.
Yeah, who knows with Tortorella, right? Like that, I'm gonna spoil the answer right away. I have no idea what's in store. Bobby Brink could continue scoring at a point per game pace, but like looked at John Tortorella funny when he came off the ice, or like wasn't huffing and puffing as much as Tortorella thinks he should have. But so far, Tortorella seems to like Brink, giving him like legit top 6 minutes. So 17, 18 minutes a night for most of the last 5 games. And Brink is obviously making it count with 2 goals and 2 assists in his last 2 games. The only thing, Elon, is those 2 goals have come in just 3 shots over his last 3 games combined. Brink has been held without a shot in 2 of his 3 last contests. And that's like for me a little like, is this really going to last? But he did have good shooting numbers on the front end of that. By the way, if anyone's not familiar with Bobby Brink out of Minnetonka, Minnesota, I like Minnesota because so many of the cities inside Minnesota start with Minna. So like you don't really have to guess. You got Minnetonka, Minneapolis, etc. I'm sure there's at least one
and many
more.
more. Don't let Brian bore you with his knowledge of all these cities in
Yeah.
Minnesota. Yeah.
34th overall pick back in 2019 by the Flyers. Last year played his first full pro season with Lehigh Valley of the AHL, 28 points in 48 games, which is not like a terrible performance for an age 21 player starting his pro career. Now 22 years old. We'll see what Brink can really put together, especially in like the temperamental Tortorella context. But I like him for a stream so far. Why not? Especially if you do have room for someone on Monday. His underlying numbers do look pretty legit for Bobby Brink. Like expected goals rates are higher than you'd expect for somebody just starting in the league. His shot attempt rates are also at a very comfortable level. So yeah, I like what Bobby Brink's doing, and I think he's absolutely worth a try.
Okay, so Bobby Brink is definitely someone to take a look at. But like you say, Brian, maybe too early to tell. Maybe a bit of a high shooting percentage there. I also want to give you an opportunity, Brian, to brag a little bit because going into the year, your favorite player to act all perplexed when you see his age, Cam Atkinson, 34-year-old Cam Atkinson, Brian. Wow, you called it. You were telling everyone this guy's going super late, and I think he's going to be good. After his most recent stretch of 2 goals and 3 assists in his last 3 games, we're up to 8 points in 8 games now for Cam Atkinson. So is this someone who, Brian, you're like going to do a victory lap over right now? Or do you need to see more to really actually, put the stamp down and be like, I called it. I told you that Cam Atkinson was going to be great.
Yeah, I would love to take a victory lap here. But this is why I'm here, right? This is why we're here, Elon, because we're honest. Even if it looks like we got it right, we're not going to pretend that it's because we're super smart. And with Atkinson, I mean, I like what I see. I think he's definitely outperforming his draft position for a lot of folks, including me. And yeah, it feels good. But I'll preach some caution at 5-on-5 with what Cam Atkinson has managed because he's scored 4 times on 15 even strength shots, which means a shooting percentage of 26%, which is double Cam Atkinson's usual 5-on-5 shooting. Has just 1 assist to go with that. Like, there's nothing really like either Cam Atkinson scoring or no one scoring. And the fact that he's scoring on more of his shots than he should be, I wonder. Like, by the way, like this is all to say that Cam Atkinson, like point per game pace or wherever he is, isn't going to last, which I think we could all accept. But I still am going to be proud that I think even if you regress Cam Atkinson, he's going to be somewhere around the 55, 60 point pace, which probably still outperforms the draft spot you got him at, depending on how much Atkinson can do on the power play. So far, not much yet for Atkinson with the man advantage. And it seems like Philly is sort of playing with split units as well. So with Atkinson, enjoy what he's giving you. Expect it to fall off a bit. Don't get overly caught up. And I wonder actually, as a right winger, if you can find a team in your league who's like losing games because they can't find a right winger and they're like cycling in like random right wing streamers if they find themselves short. If you offer up Atkinson in a sell high context, I wonder if there's anything you can get. If you can sell him as anything more than a 60-point player, good for you. But if you're happy, you might be happy with that from right wing. I know I am. So that's what I'm hoping
Yeah.
for. Again, it's gonna depend on the power play situation. I'd love for him to be on like a no doubt top unit. That would really help me.
Yeah, I guess we'll see. Things always change a lot in Philly. I was really excited to get Kirill Marchenko as a right wing, and he got benched in a game. So definitely, you have the better right wing so far. I don't know. I'm just thinking, like, I remember feeling like I was really set at right wing in my league until I started realizing that I have right wings who stink and don't even play. But one last guy in Philly, I'll just throw at you. He's already been talked about on like every show we've done and all the short shifts. But I just wanted to ask, did you end up getting Travis Sanheim anywhere? I think he's scooped up
No,
now in
I
every
just
league.
missed him. Yeah, I missed him by
Man.
like a couple hours. 4 points on 4 on ice goals at 5-on-5. So that's 100% points participation. 3 of those coming via secondary assists. So like Sanheim has some good variance going for him. But at the same time, Sanheim is quarterbacking one of those split power play units, has nice shot rates, playing 26 minutes a night, taking over 2.5 shots per game, 5 shots for Sanheim in the last game on Saturday against Anaheim. Sanheim looks like a solid roster as like a third D, maybe a fourth D, and maybe someone you could just hope to hold all year long, so long as the shots keep coming at 2 or 3 per game. That seems nice.
Yeah. Plus, he got 5 in that last game against Anaheim. Of course, Philly lost that game. Let's go to the Ducks, who have a line that has been crushing it. And surprisingly, it's not the Terry and Zegras line. So they've been playing with Leo Carlsson when Leo Carlsson does play. And I guess next week we're going to have another week where there's going to be 2 games where Leo Carlsson centers that line. And then a game where I guess it'll be Adam Henrique or whoever that goes up there. But in the meantime, the fun place seems to be over on line 2 with Ryan Strome, Frank Vetrano, and Mason McTavish. Strome is coming off a huge week where he had a couple of multi-point games most recently, including a goal and 2 assists versus Philly. We're up to 7 points in the last 4 games for Ryan Strome. Frank Vetrano just scores hat tricks. He had his second hat trick of the season already in that win against Philly. And Vetrano's now up to 8 goals in 8 games, which is pretty incredible. And then Mason Marchment, and then Mason McTavish, after his big game against Philly with a couple of assists, is also up to point per game, 8 points in 8 games. Are we at a point, Brian, where we can officially say Anaheim has now 2 lines of players where you want all the players on those lines? Like, is there any one of the players I just said that you think is like not worth grabbing? Or is it like, if you've heard any of these names and they're a free agent in your league, go get Strome, go get Vetrano, go get McTavish? Or do you have your cold bucket of water ready to go to pour on 1 or 2 or 3 of these guys?
Both, Elon, go get them, but also know, Ryan Strome is the most unsustainable out of this bunch. While he's on the ice, the Ducks are shooting 16%, so scoring on a lot of shots, and Ryan Strome is participating on 90% of the goals scored while he's on the ice. And it is true that Strome's line is faring better as a unit this year than they did last year, but not that much better. And also Strome himself has scored twice on 8 shots at 5-on-5, which 1 means he's not taking a lot of shots at 5-on-5, and 2 means he should have like 1 or 0 goals according to his usual career shooting numbers. So Ryan Strome's the one who seems least sustainable, which, like, you might have expected me to say about Frank Vetrano, who's pacing for 82 goals this season. Incredible that. 3.5 shots per game for Vetrano so far. He's got 8 goals on 29 shots, so he's shooting 28%, which is high. But also Vetrano has 2 power play goals, which are higher percentage shots, and 1 shorty, which can also come on a higher percentage shot. So I like a lot from what Vetrano's doing. And like, I wonder if this is the year that he elevates from being that streamer. We're just so used to seeing him, right? In free agency, great for that Sunday stream or late, whatever, early week, midweek. But I love that Vetrano has 4 more shots in 3 of his last 4 games. And the goals keep coming. And his underlying numbers look nice at 29 years old. So like, you could say that he's too old to break out, but you could also say that he's never been given this much of a chance. He's already averaging 19 minutes a night this year compared to 16.5 minutes a night last year, which was like 2 to 3 minutes higher than what Vetrano has normally seen in his career. So this could be a moment for Frank Vetrano, but who I think this is definitely a moment for is Mason McTavish, who has 8 points in 8 games. Did you know, Elon, that McTavish is Swiss born? It's true.
I did. Okay, interesting.
But he plays for Canada internationally. He's 20 years old. He turns age but this is age 21 season for McTavish, and he has legit stepped up his underlying numbers from last year, also benefiting from that high on ice shooting percentage that Ryan Strome and Frank Vetrano are also benefiting from and contributing to. But it looks like McTavish could hold up his numbers more than any of the others, even with regression, just because of what I see under the hood, which is kind of a funny thing to say because as like the line will probably all go together. They'll either do great together or they'll do poorly together. And it's hard to just say like one guy's going to survive better than the others. But if I had to bet on one being the real deal here in any situation, it would be Mason McTavish, which I know is not too hot a take.
Yeah, I mean, I would generally agree. It is Ryan Strome that's been on the top power play there with Terry and Zegras, for what it's worth. But we'll see if that changes. I would have expected it to be Mason McTavish actually until I just checked right now. Yeah, an interesting situation. I won't get into the whole Leo Carlsson thing. Pretty wild. He had a really great game on Thursday. It was like 2 goals and 1 goal, 1 assist. But then in this next game where Anaheim won 7-4 against Philly, no points for Leo Carlsson, no points for Troy Terry. And Brian, I'm gonna lose my couple matchup by like 15 points. Like you would have thought in a different world, like with a 7 goal game by Anaheim and me having that stack, that would have helped. But not meant to be. I'm sorry, I'm talking too much about myself
No, it's
in this
okay.
episode.
Like that top line in Anaheim has been like really frustrating, right? Like Terry, well, I guess Karlsson slash Henrique and Trevor Zegras. None of them. Like Zegras has finally started to show some signs of life. But on the whole, yeah, they're kind of annoying. And one of the reasons is because, well, I'm just looking at Zegras's on ice shooting percentage, which will speak for the rest of them, but less than 4%. So like there's more to come here. The line as a whole actually has a really, really nice looking expected goals rate. So I don't know, Elon, it might seem crazy because these guys are costing their managers weeks. Zegras has almost cost me like my only loss so far this year. Well, he kind of did cost me my only loss this year, but I think there's some better times to come for Zegras and Terry. So if you can get them low, I could still see them pacing for their preseason projections, both of which were, a north of 70 points and approaching point per game. That would be nice. Like a Cam Atkinson for Zegras or Terry swap. Mwah. I would love that.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I bet you could pull that off in a lot of leagues. I'll mention one last thing about Anaheim. If you were expecting John Gibson to be their volume starter like usual when he's healthy, that's not the case this year. They are going alternating every single game like clockwork, either Lucas Dostal or John Gibson. And for what it's worth, Dostal has been a bit better. He didn't do so great against Philly. He still got the win though. Again, that 7-4 win. So Dostal has now like a 915 save percentage compared to John Gibson's 905. Just throwing it out there. Like I'm not saying like rush to grab Dostal unless you're in a super deep league and like getting half the Anaheim games is worthwhile. But I think in most leagues you can drop John Gibson. Like if you're in the cupful, I don't see a reason to hold Gibson because he's only playing half the games. So and he's not that great. So that the only reason to have him was because like he was playing a lot of games, I think.
Okay. Well, I mean, I differ on the great part. Like Gibson has been fantastic at 5-on-5 this year, which is a nice change in direction. Dostal has still been very good at 5-on-5 this year. So like the gap between them hasn't been crazy. Curiously, Dostal's getting like it's a super small sample, right? So we can't read too much into it, but Dostal's getting better protection 5-on-5 for what it's worth. But not much to pick between them really. And yeah, Elon, since it looks like they're going 50-50, Gibson's value was being a volume starter, and he's not that so far this year. 50% quality starts too is kind of icky. Dostal has a 75% quality starts for what that's worth. So it's all small samples, but yes, there's some extra numbers to just basically end up agreeing with you.
So in the end, like Brian, so do you like kind of pretty much disregard like the what's happening on shorthanded? Like
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I do. Like I mean, it stinks. Like, and it definitely colors like the bigger picture. Like, it's important to know. But as I always say, it's such a rare game state that I would rather trust what a goalie's doing at 5-on-5. And I know that's what's hurting Gibson's overall save percentage. But at 5-on-5, again, small. I have to keep saying, especially for goalies, we can't make too many judgments based on what we're seeing. But Gibson looks better than he's looked really in any other 4-game stretch at 5-on-5 over the last few years.
I'm going to bank on that not holding. That's my prediction.
Reasonable.
Okay, so let's go next to another hot streak here over in Boston, where Pavel Zacha was dropped in a lot of leagues after a really slow start. But maybe anyone who dropped him should take a look to see if they can get him back, because Zacha is starting to heat up. He's got 3 points now in his last 3 games, including 6 shots against Detroit in the most recent game where Boston won 4-1. Also, Zacha has been back on the top line with Pastrnak and Marchand. It's not a split situation. He's in the Bergeron spot back when it was the perfection line. Zacha also on the top power plays, who's getting the best deployment, points in 3 straight. He was dropped to my couple div, and I wish I grabbed him. He's since been taken, and I think it's good. Like I'm not saying he's going to be insane, but definitely while he's in this spot and on this hot streak, he's got to be a grab, right, Brian?
Pavel Zacha, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, sorry. Just
Bergeron.
okay. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. 6 shots on Saturday against Detroit with Paston Marchand at 5-on-5. Basically, I'm repeating what you said because this is the best case scenario for Pavel Zacha. Yeah, you want to get the guy. The Bruins haven't been loading up their top line this season, and we don't know how long it'll last. But while it's there, yeah, you want Pavel Zacha.
Okay, and then still nothing from Jake DeBrusk. So last week we talked about how he had been dropped in Brian's div and he was gonna bid, and then you ended up not bidding on him, and someone else bid like $50 of fab to get him, and that person was not rewarded because DeBrusk continues to do nothing, and he's still not on the top power play. So yeah, I think at this point, I'm happy to just say to drop Pavel, or I'm say to drop Jake DeBrusk, and I think obviously like keep him on your watch list in case the deployment changes, but I have no interest in him at this point, no matter what he did last season.
Agree.
Okay. All right, Brian, let's take a break. And then when we get back, we'll finish off all of these hot and cold streaks. So we'll be back in just a sec. You're listening to Keeping Karlsson. Okay, we are back. And Brian, let's go to the New York Islanders, where actually you asked before about Erik Karlsson versus Noah Dobson. My quick hunch was that I'd prefer Dobson, but I'd be curious to know if you think that Dobson is for real. He's having a great start to the year, unlike Karlsson, of course. 7 points in 7 games now. The Islanders aren't a huge scoring team, but Dobson has been like really good, getting huge minutes, of course, taking a nice number of shots for defensemen, 2.7 shots per game. And yeah, currently of 3 power play points for whatever it's worth. And yeah, 7 points in 7 games overall. Last season, Dobson ended up pacing for 52, which exactly matched his previous season of 52. So I guess the easy question to throw to you, Brian, is over or under 52 this year for Noah Dobson? And if over, I'd be curious to know over under 60.
Okay. Well, I was gonna say the over, and now I'm trying to think of the second part of your question. So over 52. Like Dobson's on a point per game pace right now, right? But he looks pretty good, and like I'm not gonna go too deep into it. Like just take my word for it. All right, I've cited a lot of numbers tonight. But yeah, 60, Elon. I'll go like a smidge south, but it's in reach, and it's more. It looks that 60 mark looks more in reach for Dobson this year than it did last year. So there's that. That's nice. The upside is back up there.
Yeah, he's looking really good. By the way, that power play has been going pretty well. And I think a lot of it has to do with Kyle Palmieri, who's been there all season. He has 3 power play points himself. And yeah, we've talked about him. I think I've mentioned him every week. So this will be the last time I'll mention it until something changes. But we're coming into this week now, 3-game point streak for Kyle Palmieri, who's also up to 7 points in 7 games on the year. So I'll just say one last time, get him. I think he's for real. Kyle Palmieri, go grab him. Though interestingly, while Palmieri has 3 points in his last 3 games, his line mate at both even strength and on the power play, Brock Nelson's gone a bit cold, actually. Pointless in 4 games. He did have 8 shots in the last game against Columbus. I assume I know what you're going to say, Brian, but I got to throw it out there as a journalist. Are we nervous about Brock Nelson, or is this just a cold stretch that's going to end very, very soon?
Yeah, I like Brock Nelson. We call him Brock Steady, right? Like it's hard to say, like after how consistent Nelson has been for as long as he's been that way, to like say now is the time to worry, especially because do you know Brock Nelson already has 27 shots through 7 games. That's you could do the math. That's almost 4 shots per game. He's still playing on the top power play. He had 8 shots against Columbus on Saturday. Now's not the time to give up on Brock Nelson, even though, yeah, pointless in 4, but he's got, well, because thanks to that 8-shot game largely, but 15 shots over those last 4. His minutes are still high. They're not quite as high as they were last season, but they're still like where they were 2 seasons ago when Nelson paced for 67 points. So maybe you want to downgrade a little from saying like, oh yeah, 70-ish points to 60 to 65-ish points, but that's as down as I'm going to get on Brock Nelson at this point, at this early stage.
Yeah, plus he's playing with a known stud, Kyle Palmieri. By the way, if you look at Nelson's shots, that was sarcastic a little bit, by the way.
Well, no, I like, can I actually, I don't know if you want to finish your Nelson point before I.
Yeah, I had a really
Okay.
important Nelson point I was
Sorry.
going to make that everyone needs to know.
Uh-huh.
Is that I'm looking at his shots over the last 4 games. There's a 1, there's a 2, there's a 4, and there's an 8. So I think that means probably he's going to take 16 shots in the next game.
Oh, yes. Yes.
If you're
That's
into
the
the
math.
numerology.
That's the math part of this podcast for sure. Palmieri like looks actually pretty good too. Like and Elon, like you said, I think we have mentioned him a bunch and we can sort of just like say, we've told you. We don't know, like it's not a reminder now. This is the normal for Palmieri now until it's not. Second line top power play, age 33 season. And Elon, I'm kind of wondering if he's got like there's like a Jamie Benn moment for Palmieri. You know, like
Oh,
how
yeah.
yeah, that's a pretty good comp, right?
I think older has been. I mean, Palmieri's never been as good as Ben was at his peak. But yeah, sure, why not? Until I could think of someone better. Well, let's go with that.
All right.
Let's go to Arizona, Brian. I got a hot streak and a cold streak for you. The cold streak is, I think, another guy we've brought up every single episode. But I just like I'll keep bringing him up until you say that you actually don't believe in him anymore. So Barrett Hayton somehow has no points in 7 games, even though he's been on the top line. He's been on the top power play. He's averaging 3+ shots per game. Like everything that I look for in a player, aside from points, he has. But no points. So is the plan still to hold Barrett Hayton and just for like whatever, the past is the past, expect the points to come soon? Or do we get nervous?
I look forward to discussing Barrett Hayton again next week as
You
he
think he's going to pointless
continues.
again? I need to win a
Well,
matchup,
he might
Brian.
he might go pointless again, but he deserves to do better. He is like he's been on the ice for 10 goals, no points. That's ridiculous. Even like I mentioned, his career low, like generally over his career, he's been a low participator. Even with that low participation, Hayton should have 5 points on those 10 goals.
And that
And
would be
that's
7. That would be 5 points in 7 games. That would be like a
yeah,
really good season. Ugh,
yeah. And Hayton
bad.
himself, no points on 22 shots. So like this is very annoying, but IMO, ride it out.
Yeah, I agree. Sucks, but I agree. And then as far as the hot streaks go on Arizona, so Matthias Michelli is someone who a lot of people talked about in the off season. I heard like I think on the Fans Hockey Life podcast, the beat writer they had for Arizona was in like, watch out for this Michelli. He had a really great rookie year, like quite a quiet last year, 49 points in 64 games. That's a 63-point pace for Michelli. Like in fantasy, he was a little bit tough because he barely shot. But so far this season through 7 games, first of all, Michelli, like it's not insane, but last year he was averaging 1 shot a game. This season so far, more like 2 shots per game. So it's starting to increase. Also, like we were nervous about him being on like the third line, but for whatever it's worth, like Michelli's on a nice hot streak right now. He's got 5 points in his last 4 games, just scored against the Kings. So going into next week, Arizona is one of the teams that play 4 times, including I think it was 2 or 3 off day games. Check out Matchup Maximizer, where I also talked about Matthias Michelli. I think he's a grab for now. I think he's like a Bobby Brink type, like grab him for now and then, reassess in a week. But I'm kind of into him. And like, unlike Bobby Brink, Michelli already has some experience putting up points in the NHL for a whole season.
Yeah, and Michelli is kind of like it's not the same as Kotkaniemi, but like it's kind of the same as Kotkaniemi because Michelli has been, well, actually even more than Kotkaniemi, maybe. Michelli has been like a sort of reliable point producer, but in the who was it? Middlestat vein, where like a lot of assists and nothing else. I'm making up too many comparisons here. I'm losing the thread, but that was the reason to not for sure roster Michelli last year as a rookie. And this year, Michelli has doubled his shots per game from 1 to 2, and his expected goals have doubled as well. It's funny how that works. Now, Michelli's 5-on-5 line isn't awesome with Kerfoot and Bjugstad, but like that's still pretty solid. That's a decent base to work with. You've got 2 like stalwart NHLers, and it's helping Michelli compared to last year. His line's performance is better, and they're actually only shooting 5% while he's on the ice. So Michelli and his line mates deserve better. I liked him last year. I like him more this year because of those increased shot rates. And yes, Elon, I am in on Matthias Michelli.
Yeah, at least for next week. We're not saying like potentially all season, but
Yeah.
or like we are saying potentially for all season, not for sure.
Yeah, for
But yeah,
sure. Next, like, but makes a great stream for this upcoming week.
yeah.
Yes.
I thought of my comp, Brian, for Kyle Palmieri. I gave it some thought.
I can't wait.
I think how about David Perron? Perron's someone who had a few good years early in his career, got up to a 60-point pace with Edmonton, and maybe his best season when he was in his 20s. Then he like really like dipped. He kind of became a nobody for a bit. We went to Pittsburgh, and everyone was like, "Oh my God, Perron's gonna be with Crosby or Malkin. It's gonna be so." And he did nothing. Then he went to like whatever, back to Anaheim, or his first. I don't know. He went to Anaheim for a bit, wasn't good. Then he went back to St. Louis again, wasn't good. Then all of a sudden he went to Vegas, had a great year. Then went to St. Louis and started getting good again. So maybe that's where we are with Palmieri, where he was good
Okay.
for a bit, then he like went down, and now maybe he's back to the new Perron, and he'll be like a 60, 70-point guy now for the next few seasons.
Okay, to the new Perron. Yeah, like I would say my only quibble with I've used quibble twice now. That's too many times. But the only thing I'd say isn't great with like is with the comp is that Perron's highs are higher than I'd expect Palmieri's highs to be.
Well, so
Right.
far,
But
Palmieri's at a point per game.
but the career track record is a nice match. Plus, like a lot of changes in destination that changed his fortune. Way to go! I'm still sticking with Jamie Benn. I didn't think I needed a better one for like a line two top power play
Well, Jamie
older
Benn is like
guy.
a former Art Ross winner, so I just feel like we can't go too crazy with
Yeah,
Kyle Palmieri comparing him to Jamie Benn. It's like kind of an
yeah,
insult
but
to Jamie Benn.
yeah, but you were part of Perron's revitalization like was like super high, and I don't think Palmieri's revitalization will be quite as high.
I guess.
But I hear what you're saying. Like before, yeah, I get it. It's
David
interesting.
Perron has a career high
Tweeted
66.
us. Who had the better comparison for Kyle Palmieri?
Perron's career high is only 66 points. It's not as if he's like ever blown the doors off.
Yeah, but his
Yes.
career high pace, 85
Yeah, but
points. Yeah.
but whatever, he wouldn't have hit it if he actually played all those games, as we've seen from his whole
He played
career.
56 games. I don't know. It was looking pretty sustainable that year.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. I don't remember. But okay, Brian, let's go on to the next. Where were we here? We were on Arizona. Oh yeah, I wanted to go to Washington, who is now okay. Like I think last week we were talking about Washington is looking really brutal. They were losing all the time, and we were specifically talking about Darcy Kemper and saying like this guy might like he's a volume goalie, but he might be one of those like bad volume goalies that like is always hurting you. Since we said that, I guess Darcy Kemper was like, "Hey now." And the Washington Capitals all together and Alex Ovechkin, they were like, "Hey now, we're not done just yet." And now all of a sudden the Caps have won a couple in a row, looking pretty good. Kemper has just put up two straight gems. One of them was against San Jose today, which everyone does, but he also stopped 39 of 41 against Minnesota on Friday. So do we need to mea culpa here and apologize to the Capitals and Darcy Kemper for writing them off so quickly?
Yeah, hey now. Don't dream it's over for Darcy Kemper and the Washington Capitals. Except like I might also kind of be Elon. Like this could be a nice positive blip, or it could be a sign that there is some stability to come. On the upside, the Caps are like middle of the pack, maybe even a little better at goal suppression at 5-on-5. But on the downside, they rank 30th out of the 32 NHL teams in expected goals per 60 minutes at 5-on-5. Now their shooting percentage is below 6%, which is, making it look even worse than it is. But I think they'll need to step up their offense a little bit more for Kemper. Like it depends. Like a wins league, if wins are important to you, then Kemper loses a little value. But if you're just looking for volume, Elon, I'm with you. I'm going to be an optimist here, and I'm just going to say there's hope. I don't know. It could be like a Petr Mrazek situation or a Jordan Binnington situation where there's like waves of good amongst waves of bad. So we'll keep an eye. It would be nice to find like some even keel for Kemper, so we don't just keep getting taken on the roller coaster. But yeah, like you, I hope this current run of good play from him lasts.
Let me ask you a question, Brian. I have Jari right now. Do I make
No,
I don't trade Jari for Kemper?
I would not.
Okay.
And like, how do you like?
I
What
don't
do
know.
you think?
Who knows? Probably not, but like getting those negatives really hurts. But I guess Kemper managers felt that earlier in the year. By the way, you mentioned how Washington's not scoring as much. Well, things have gotten better since Dylan Strome has taken over as the center on the top line. Another goal today. That's now 3 straight games where Strome has scored at least a goal. And actually, if you go back 5 games, you get to 6 goals in his past 5 games. No assists. Like he plays on a line with Alex Ovechkin, and
It's so
he's got
weird.
6 goals.
It's a
So
very strange stat line. 6 goals and no assists, right? No, like
yeah,
it's yeah.
because why
And he's
pass to Ovi?
and
You're Dylan Strome.
and the
Shoot
6
and
goals have
score.
come on just 17 shots, which means he scored 35% shooting for Dylan Strome. early. Like, I don't see anything. Like, two of the goals have been on the power play. That's nice. I don't see anything to say that like Dylan Strome has become more dangerous or anything though. So like if you have him, good for you. Like that's nice. You picked him up at the right time. But the second he stops or slows down, I mean, assuming that Ovechkin hasn't gotten going and the assists don't start coming in for Strome, then I'd be ready to move on. Like he's
Oh,
a 20 to 25 goal scorer who has 6 goals in 8 games.
I feel like I guess I didn't mention he's taken over on the top line and top power play, just like where he ended last year, where he was also hot.
Yeah, where
I
he
think
was
if he
barely
holds it,
rosterable.
really, that's
I had him. I think I traded for him, or I
he had
traded him
22
because
points in 18 games to end last season, Brian.
okay, yeah. So then, okay, how many were assists? Why
Nine
do
goals and 13 assists in his last 18 games last
okay? So
season.
why anecdotally do I feel like I remember him being like
Maybe you're
in like
thinking
a
like middle of the
couple
season. You're
an
thinking
assist
middle season.
is 3 fantasy points, right? And I remember him like on a good night, even with an assist, he'd get me 3.5 points. It was frustrating.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I think that Dylan Strome is a grab for sure and a hold for as long as he's on line
Okay.
one, power play one. That's how I see it.
Yeah, sure. You know what? I'm swayed. I guess I have some kind of bias clouding me here. Like I'm looking at I'm looking at like the rest of Strome's numbers. Like I'm not going into this blind, and I'm just not seeing anything super
All
encouraging.
right, all right.
But like, hey, top line, top power play. It's hard to argue when a player has that much deployment and they're clicking.
Which third overall pick would you rather have rest of season now that you've had this new context? Would you take Kotkaniemi or
Uh,
Dylan Strome?
I knew, yeah, the second you started the question,
It's a
and
good one, right?
it is a
I should
good
retire
one.
after this question. That was a good one.
It's like this the height of your journalism career.
Best I've done.
I'm gonna go. I don't like Eli. It's not rational based on what you're saying. Like, I think I'm leaning
Hey, I
Kotkaniemi.
mean, Strome could get bumped again.
Yeah,
Washington was just so
I think
bad.
that's it.
Well, they were so bad without Strome there, and then they brought Strome there, and now they're finally a competitive team. But obviously, things can change. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Shans is bringing up that Washington plays only Thursday, Saturday, but I think like Dylan Strome looks like a season hold to me. So, yeah, it might be a crappy week next week, and then in the following week, you're happy. So I guess that's always the trade off when you're playing a weekly head to head league. Brian, let's go next to the Winnipeg Jets. Okay. So we talked about how Darcy Kemper is finally looking good now. We should also mention that Connor Hellebuck, who had a rough start, he's also looking good now. I'm pretty sure when I brought up his cold start, we both agreed that he'll be fine. So it's Trev
We
could let
did.
us know if we're wrong, if we're taking credit for something. But yeah, so Hellebuck's been looking really good. And also another player who started slow is finally starting to at least be noticeable on the score sheet in Nikolai Ehlers. He still only sits at 1 point in his last 4 games, but I'm going to take a small victory here in the fact that he has 7 and 6 shots in each of his last couple of games. So there's something. He's on the top power play now with all the injuries, well, specifically the Velarde injury. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, you could probably get him pretty cheap right now. I like those shots. Maybe now's the time to get a discount Nikolai Ehlers and hope that those shots can keep up. It's only 2 games, and he's
Yeah.
been disappointing outside of it. But
I mean, we've been desperate to see signs of life from Ehlers, and we have them. So, I mean, if you're rostering him, you're hoping this is light at the end of the tunnel, and if you're not, yeah, this could be a moment. 20 he played 21 minutes against Montreal on Saturday, which followed up a season low 13 minutes against Detroit on Thursday. So we'll see how many minutes Ehlers plays in his next game. It's weird, Elon. I just don't know if he's like not liked by the coach or if he's struggling for some other reason. I wonder if we could get Murat to just answer like one single question for us, which is like, what is the deal? That's
I
it.
think he would. Murata
Yeah.
Tesh on Twitter. Tweet at
Yeah.
him. He'll
Okay.
answer.
All
I
right.
think. I don't know.
Maybe.
I
Yeah.
think
So
I have a DM to Murat that's still left unread from a couple years ago.
oh,
That's a DM, and that, like if we
it's
asked him
different.
publicly a fun question, this was like
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's crazy that like in 2 games, Ehlers has 13 shots because before that he had 10 shots over 6 games. So
yeah.
like this, we'll see if he gets a lot of minutes and a lot of shots. I like that. He's been on the top power play, by the way, for like 6 games, and he has 1 power play point.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we're just like being delusional here and just trying to find anything good. Like if it was any other player, we'd be like,
Well,
yeah, it's nothing. It's
I
just two
think
games.
it might have been Trev. Somebody on our Discord server was like, if you didn't see the name, you wouldn't like this player. And
It's
like,
true.
yeah, but like there's also something to the name, right? Like we've seen this guy be so good before and so talented. It's strange to see that disappear. Like for all of Ehlers' perceived inconsistency, he's been between essentially, like almost a 70 to 80 point player for each of the last 4 seasons. So why
Mhm.
wouldn't he be there this year?
Yeah. Uh,
And that's with barely any power play production.
We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
He's also had some injury troubles. Who knows if that's affected him? But okay, 2 good games of shots. So let's see if he builds on that. While we're on Winnipeg, Norm wanted us to ask. He just wrote in the chat here. By the way, a perk of being a patron and keeping Karlsson is you get to join us for the live show and ask us questions in the chat. We usually take a look and answer them. And Norm wants to know what to do with Iafallo, who has been getting great deployment. Right, he's on the top line with Connor and Scheifele, and also the top power play with Connor Scheifele, Ehlers, and Josh Morrissey. And yet, nothing. Nada. Only no points in his last 3 games. He had a couple good games before that, but recently, since he's been on the top power play, anyways, yeah, not much going on for Iafallo. Actually, now that I'm looking, actually, he's been on the top power play all season. I didn't even notice that.
Yeah.
But anyway, not doing much. But is he interesting to you? Because this deployment, I mean, with that deployment, I feel like I would take a look, especially in a week with a good schedule.
Yeah, I think like that makes him a good stream, but we've seen Iafallo, like he played on the top power play for most of 3 seasons in LA, and he had a combined 23 power play points across 200 games. So like that's a regular season of power play one production over the equivalent of 2.5 seasons. So he's been line one power play one for plenty of time and has only ever been like a 45, maybe 50 point pace player. So no, like I follow yes to a stream, no for like I'm gonna hold him because he's in really good deployment. Like if you want to compare to Dylan Strome line one power play one, I would much rather try Dylan Strome as a longer term hold than Alex Iafallo.
Yeah, and I do wonder if at some point, like Cole Perfetti or like Nino Niederreiter bump Iafallo from that top power play. Like I feel like that's not a spot he can hold
Function
all
of
season.
injuries. Yeah.
Yeah. No, but I'm saying Cole Perfetti and Nino Niederreiter are healthy and just not on the top power play.
Oh,
I just feel
yeah.
like those are guys that could bump him potentially.
Yeah.
We'll see. Depends what the power play is doing. All right, Brian. So let's keep going. I asked you about Kemper and Hellebuck, another goalie that I was convinced, like in your words, sucks. But now all of a sudden is actually looking pretty good to start this season. Jonathan Quick, who is the Rangers backup, who I assumed they just figured they'd have for like the good luck charm of his Stanley Cup history. But no, he's played 3 games so far. Get this right, a 982 save percentage in 3 games for Jonathan Quick, 2 shutouts. And in the other, well, no, not 2 shutouts. So one game where he came in relief and didn't let in any goals. Then 1 goal against Seattle, and now just recently a shutout of the Edmonton Oilers. It wasn't McDavid-less Edmonton Oilers. Anyways, obviously it's a small sample size as a backup goalie, but I think it's worth shouting out because of how bad Jonathan Quick has been over these past few years. How nice would it be if he could end his career as being like a really good, solid backup for Igor Shesterkin? I think it's cool to see. We'll see if
I
it lasts.
guess. I don't know. Like I
Brian
feel
hates
like
Jonathan Quick.
I don't hate him. It's just like he had such a long
His
turn
smug
as
face.
like as the okay, all
Undeserved
right.
cups.
Getting burst. No, he was great for the Kings in the Stanley Cup, but then like he spent so long not being a legit starter for the Kings. So like you're like, wouldn't it be nice? Yeah, sure, it would be nice, but I'm not that deeply invested in this. And remember Jonathan Quick when he got to Vegas last year was like, oh, we still got it. It's pretty amazing. He stopped it looks like 57 of 58 shots at all strengths this year, which is like a pretty low workload for 3 games. I'm wondering if my numbers over devolving
One of them I said was he
hockey
came in
are
relief.
correct. Okay, right. Yeah. So 2.5 games for Quick. So yep. Good job.
All right.
That's it.
I was going to bring up Zibanejad not having any goals yet this season. But then after I wrote that, he scored last night. So we could skip him. And Brian, let's go
And a
to.
couple assists.
Okay, he's good. I mean, Zibanejad's good. We all would have obviously said, even if he didn't have that game yesterday, that he's great and not to worry about it. Let's go to Minnesota. Gustafsson still having a bit of a rough start to the season. Marc-Andre Fleury got his second start in a row today. For what it's worth, it didn't go that well. Like New Jersey beat Minnesota, but again, it was against New Jersey, so you don't want to hold it too much against Fleury. But yeah, 4 goals against on 30 shots. But is Gustafsson becoming potentially? I don't know. It feels weird to ask, but maybe he's not like worth holding it. Like if like Fleury's going to get all of these starts, and if Philip Gustafsson, even when he does play, he's at an 885 save percentage in his 5 games. Like he's been pretty brutal. He let in 4, 5, and 6 goals in his last couple games before now sitting for the last 2. How long is your leash for Philip Gustafsson, who again before last year was like a nobody, right? He just had a really good 39 games last year.
The difference is all shorthanded between the two. Like Gustafsson has been bad at 5-on-5, but Marc-Andre Fleury has been like markedly worse, like very bad at 5-on-5. But shorthanded, Fleury's rocking a 929 save percentage versus Gustafsson's 800 save
Yeah,
percentage.
but I'm not
So like,
asking Fleury versus Gustafsson. Just more like,
well, I mean, so well,
what does
I
the
guess what
coach
I'm
think?
saying, yeah, well, I'm giving this context because I think it will show before long that Fleury can't handle like a substantial workload.
Right, but
That's what
what,
I'm
even
getting
50
at.
50?
But it could be 50-50, especially if Gustafsson isn't great himself. And it's like, well, if both goalies suck, you just keep going back and forth until one of them stops sucking. Wow, word of the episode. Like I
You
don't
love
know
it.
why. Am I feeling more aggressive tonight? I'm not sure. But yeah,
Sucks.
I wonder if this is like Elon. You asked like would I don't think you trade
Hit
Jari
me.
for Gustafsson, huh?
No, Gustafsson
Yeah.
is
Should
a
I
50
and
50
like
goalie.
well I don't so I still think I think he'll recover and I think he'll start at least 60% of the games on a good team. And like even me, like I have Darcy Kemper. I don't think I'm gonna take the swing. Like I'd rather like wait another few games and see what Kemper has to offer. But it could be like I guess what I'm saying is I think this is a buy low moment for Philip Gustafsson, who I had
It could
ranked quite
be.
highly in Schmark board.
Yeah, I think it could be, but it could also be us learning a lesson of like,
Yes,
that was a
it's
really small
goalies.
sample size, but also like
Yeah.
we used a really small sample size to rank Gustafsson like really high. And maybe that was, we'll see. We'll find it. It's obviously still early in the year. Okay, another goalie, Brian. In Seattle, another goalie that's taken more starts than we were expecting. Joey Daccord has played now the last 3 games for the Kraken. 4, 3, and 3 goals against, which isn't that great. But you look at the save percentage, he's like phased a lot of shots. Like in this loss to Florida most recently, like Florida won 3-2. Wait, so then how? Yeah, 3 to okay, Florida won 3-2. But yeah, it was 38 saves for Decord with those 3 goals against. It's a 921 save percentage, similar to that last game also where he had the overtime loss to Carolina. So like Decord isn't winning, but he is putting up better numbers than Grubauer, who in his 4 game, similar to Gustafsson, right, 896 save percentage. I think it's pretty obvious at this point to at least drop Grubauer, because even if it's 50-50, that he's not worth holding. The question, I think more interestingly, is like, do we believe in Joey Daccord? Like, is he going to become like the starter and worth grabbing, or do you see it just kind of going back and forth? And who
Yeah.
knows?
I mean,
Anyways,
even when Decord started the second game in a row, I was like, whoa, I wasn't expecting that. Like, I was actually planning on dropping him, and I can't remember why I didn't. But, and then when Decord started the third game in a row, I was like, what? Like, that was really mind blowing. It's about like, just a reminder, Grubauer is under contract for 4 more years at $6 million. But I guess the Kraken are like, they're like new thinkers. And I think maybe the Kraken are trying to figure out, okay, what do we have in Joey Decord? And are at the same time, like, remember that Grubauer, like bringing him to Seattle seemed like a very like antithetical move for what the Kraken had been building. And maybe they're ready to like learn from their mistake and just be like, yeah, I guess it didn't work out. Grubauer has a modified no trade after this year. So if things don't go well, there's 10 teams he can't be traded to, but there are 20 teams that he can. And so I wonder if that's, although who would want him? It's really
yeah,
interesting to me, Elon, see that the Kraken like aren't following the money, as Jeremy, our short just has put in our group chat. So I don't know what to make of it, but I think for sure what you said, you can drop Grubauer and you can add Decord. Like every additional start he gets is a surprise. So like I don't know, like all bets are off for the next Seattle start, but I will be watching.
yeah. Okay, and then Brian, let's end the show over in Nashville, where I have to bring up a hot streak here. So again, if you're in a deeper league, check out and see if Luke Evangelista is available. Though maybe after we see what Brian says about him, he's been playing with Tommy Novak, who I think is probably rostered in a lot of leagues now. We all love Tommy Novak, and also Kiefer Sherwood. It's a fun line. That was the same line that was doing some fun things last year. Where we were like, who are these people? But yeah, Evangelista now up to 5 points in his last 4 games. A nice little hot streak. This is a high-ish pedigree guy who's taken the second round of 2020. I think he's been really good in the minors to raise his stock since then. How much are you believing in Evangelista? Oh, I should also mention the power play. Of course, this is keeping Karlsson after all. Let's be professionals. Ryan O'Reilly, Forsberg, and Luke Evangelista, along with Josi and Barry, 2 defensemen, 3 forwards, and Evangelista made the cut in the last game against Toronto. So if that holds, it's pretty sweet deployment.
Yeah, it is. And I'm glad you brought him up. I don't have a whole lot more to add because there's not a whole lot to see from Evangelista so far. 16 shots, has a goal. So in 8 games. So a couple shots a game, which isn't a ton. Maybe he should have scored another goal by now. He's participating on a reasonable amount of goals scored while he's on the ice at 5-on-5, has a couple power play points. And I'm interested to see. So Elon, I actually have a question for you. I have Evangelista, Tommy Novak, and Tyson Barrie. So 2 top power play predators plus Tommy Novak, like maybe the best 5-on-5 player of the group. How would you rank those 3 players in the cupful?
I would do Barry last, and I'd go Novak first, and then Evangelista.
Okay. Yeah. So I think in the league where Novak is roster role, I think Evangelista is also, especially with the I think the Preds have a decent schedule this week. So keep an eye. And thanks for pointing that out.
All right. Well, enjoy that, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the whole episode. Yeah. As far as the Nashville schedule, they go Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. So at least Tuesday is a light day. You might not be able to fit Evangelista in on Thursday and Saturday, but check and see what you can do there. Okay, Brian. This has been a blast. Thanks, everyone, for listening. Hope you enjoyed the show. The injuries and outjuries in part 1, the hot and cold streaks in part 2. And here we are at the end, thanking you for being a faithful listener of the podcast. If you wanted to give us a 5-star review wherever you listen to your podcasts, we would, of course, super appreciate that. If you want some extra perks and also to drop Brian and I a little bit of coin to, throw us a little change each month to thank us for our hard work, we wouldn't mind that either. And we have a Patreon where we're giving you some perks in exchange. You join our amazing community on Discord. We have a lot of really smart people, the smartest people, like people that are like really whipping me around in my tier 3 cupful league. Like these are like, there's like a ton of people out there that are clearly much smarter than me. It's really fun. Also, we have our monthly patron cast we talked a bit about earlier. You can still get that we dropped last week. Come join our live chats, show notes. We do our best to give you something, okay, for your $5 US a month. So check it out, keepingkarlsson.com/patron. But with that, Brian, let's cue the outro music. Why don't you go ahead and read us the credits?
All right. This episode of the Keep It Karlsson Fantasy Hockey Podcast was presented by Dauber Hockey and powered by our patrons, including our super supporters. Our first one ever, Patty, then Ricard, Max, Rob, David, Ryan, Tom, Zachary, Andrea, Sammy, Ivan, Aaron, Patrick, Michael, Don, and Roman. Thank you all so much, and thanks to all our patrons. Thank you also to our Cupful coordinator and Lord of the Bots, Kevin Abear, for keeping the Cupful just like the best fantasy. Like we couldn't do it without Kevin. We really couldn't. With almost 700 managers, irreplaceable. So thanks, Kevin, for all the work you're doing. If you want to get on the wait list, by the way, to take over a team that'll be in need of a manager, you can. The opportunity will come. So if you want to get your name as high on the wait list as you can, kkupfl.com for all the details. Thanks to you, Elon and Shams, for all you're doing at GameDayTweets.com to keep us off of Twitter and feed us just the good stuff. Thank you to all our short shifts hosts. Thank you to all our short shifts hosts, Lewis, Jeremy, Shams, and Derek made a little cameo. Maybe that's one of many to come. You can follow Short Shifts at Short Shifts KK. Logo art by BrandonWeave.com. Outro music by Pat Roach. This episode was researched with help from Dauber Hockey, Frozen Tools, Dauber Prospects, Natural Stat Trick, Evolving Hockey, Cap Friendly, The Athletic, HockeyGoalies.org, Hockey Reference, Hockey Viz, Hockey Database, Elite Prospects, and Yahoo.
Great job as always, Brian. Such a blast to talk to you every week. What a pleasure. What a great cap to my weekend. Looking forward to doing it all again next week and to listen to a couple short shifts in between.
Until then, no, it's okay. You don't need to ask. I can say it. Until then, the thing you can do for us, for you, for everyone is to make sure that fantasy hockey is for everyone.
Namaste.
What?
I don't know. It's a thing people say. All right. Thanks, everyone. Hope you liked it.
Thanks everyone in the chat.
Yeah.
Nice lively group.
Really fun group.
All the greatest people are in the chat.
I mean, I like that we made it just for patrons. I think that other people we talk to are like, you're an idiot because you should be like trying to improve your YouTube, channel by whatever. But I feel like we're just doing this for the kicks.
For
And I think
kicks.
that I don't want to hang out with a bunch of randos for the live shows. I want to hang out with the people I like.
Yeah.
So I'm happy with
Yeah.
it. I'm happy with it. Whatever. So our
You're
views are
happy. I'm
down.
happy.
We don't get paid for YouTube views.
No, we should
We d-
monetize.
I mean, maybe if someone wants to help us do that. No, I'm just kidding. All right. Thanks, everyone. Hope you enjoyed it. Yeah, Brian, I'll talk to you soon. See ya.
Bye.